Hello. Hi. Hello. 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 Welcome back. Happy Monday. What is up? I hope you guys had a good weekend. Thank you for being here. Hello. Hello. I just saw Cree say it's her birthday. A shout out to my girl Cree. Happy birthday to her. Brat didn't even tell me. I didn't know. Hi. 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 Happy birthday, girl. Hello. Hello, everyone. We're back to Mackenzie. Hi, bet. Where were you? I know I ended up taking the weekend off. I needed it. Well, I still worked, but yesterday ended up family time. So, yeah, don't mind me. But I'm back and I have my coffee. Today we're drinking a coffee, not a buzzball. It's just been one of those days, like it's like basically fall. I'm like a pumpkin girl already. Not pumpkin. Hello, hello. Look at my coffee. I think I'm onto something. I'm gonna share this. I told you guys I would make a live about it. I'm really onto something. I'm really picky about my coffee. But anyways, and I made it myself. Yeah, I know. Do you want to marry me now? You should. Hi, hi, hi. Oh, okay, okay. No one is to this time. Yes, okay, hello. I'm over here ranting, but let me do the intro and then we're gonna talk a little bit and then we're gonna get into the text messages. We're in February. Wait, yeah, of 2021. Let me see. Asain was in here. Liberty's podcast. Hello, hello. I saw Belita, Ashbish, 𝐿𝐿𝐴, Dana, Scoop, 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 Cree, Benji. Hi, 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 hi. Okay, let's see. Please make sure, Misty Melly. I missed you guys too. Please make sure to hit the like button, do all the YouTube things, please, please, please. Really helps the smaller channels, aka me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I did before we get started on the Mackenzie text, someone left a comment and I wanted to address it because excuse me, it kind of bugged me, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? Whatever. Someone said that I was not very compassionate or we're not about the itching thing that was going on in the last live. And I'm like, wait, what? Hold on. Hold the phone. What? It's been false. Yeah, I know. So anyways, about that, like no one was trying to be offensive, especially not me. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. So like we don't mean any harm here. We're just reading these text messages and it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're just having a conversation. If that bugs you, like I'm sorry. They thought somebody said that I was not being I believe compassionate was the right word about how it was funny that we were laughing about Dom itching. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. We're all adults here. We know what's going on. Like, they're just teenagers, but it's like someone got butt hurt. But, anyways, moving on. We're going to move on from that. So, I just wanted to address it because I don't feel like nobody's doing that here, especially not me. But, anyways, let's begin. Like I said, we're in February of 2021. I'm going to try to I really want to get to the next year, so we're gonna figure it out, babes. We're gonna figure it out with my busy schedule. Okay, let's get started. um oh, let me fix my screen. Sorry. Oh, okay, there we go. 269 said folks you put on their big pants on and can't help it. I felt like I needed to address it because I didn't want people to think that I was being like a bully about it. It's just like, dude, what the heck? Like, anyways, Bree says, Melly, if they ain't hating you doing something wrong, thank you. Go somewhere else. You're the best. uh, you're fine. Thank you. Okay, it was hilarious. Dude, there's no like button on my phone. There's not? Are you on your phone? There has to be. Are you I'm not sure. Okay, let's see. Let's get started. Okay. February 1st, 2021, 6:36 a.m. Good morning, babe, she says. He says, "Good morning, babe. Love you." She says, "Aw, you're up. I love you too. What are you doing, babe?" He says, "About to sleep again for a little." She says, "Okay, my little babe. Sleep good." He says, "Love you, babe." She says, "I love you too, babes." And then emoji. He says, "Have a good day at school." She says, "I'm gonna stop at your house and grab a car if that's okay, babes, when I'm on the way back." He says, "Yeah." Oh, a cart, probably. She says, "Coming now." She says, "Babe." He says, "Babe." She says, "I'm at work, babe." Okay, so this was later. That was at like 6:35 a.m. So then she says, "I'm at work at 3:22." He says, "Babe, you have work? I didn't know you worked today, babe." She says, "Yes, babe. I told you last night, babems. 3 to 7, my first day." Emoji face. He says, "Aw, I miss you, babe." She says, "I miss you more, babe. I want you. I want cuddles right now." He says, "I want a lot more than that." What the heck? What? Hey, which? Wow. They're getting freaky up in there in the tags. Hey, Bree. Okay. Says he says, "I want a lot more than that." She says, "Oh, you will be getting it later, babe." What? She said, "I'm really sore right now also." TMI. He says, emoji face. What the? He says, "I'll come back there. We'll go in the back." She says, "The manager's back there." He said, "So what?" She says, "I love you so much." He says, "I love you too, babe." Wait, is he talking about going to her work and getting it on at work? What the heck? At 5:43 p.m., she says, "Hi, baby. I'm freezing right now and in hella pain." He says, "I'm in pain too. I feel sick. Tummy hurt." She says, "Babe, what did you eat?" He says, "I don't know." She says, "I'm gonna come over soon." He says, "Kyle, Jared, and B gonna be here." She says, dot, dot, dot. "Why you do me like that?" He says, "Well, I said they can they can all come. We I think he said aimed for 5:30. Now it's 7." She says, "Don't ask me to hang and then invite your stupid ass friends over." She said, Dom says, "My stomach is effed, babe, and they'd be gone like 8ish, babe." She says, "I really don't care. I've been in pain all day." He says, "Babe, we had to chill with B." She says, "I literally had to sit on the floor for like 20 minutes because my back is in terrible pain right now." She says, "You don't have to do that shit. And please tell me what your stomach has to do with us hanging out. Really doesn't make any sense." He says, "'Cause that's making everything take longer." She said, "No, it's not. Like, we could have had a nice night and we could have relaxed, but you had to invite your stupid ass friends over and you effed me again." He says, "Babe, they will be gone soon." She says, "I don't care. I'm about to pass your house. Like, why do you do this dumb shit 3 plus times a week?" He says, "Babe, I'm sorry." She says, "No, you're not." He says, "I just have too many things going on. Come on, we can cuddle and watch a movie later." She says, "I'm not coming over past 8 o'clock. If they're still there at 8 o'clock, I'm not coming over. You have 30 minutes or I'm going the F to bed." He says, "Babe, they all just got here. What if we watch movie by 8?" She says, "I honestly don't care at all. If I'm not over before 8, I'm going to bed. Don't ask me to effing hang out if you're going to do that shit to me ever. Like, I love getting my hopes up and then you crushing them. I swear this happens like once a effing week." Then she sends 20 question marks, literally. And then another one, she says, "I'm going to bed." He says, "Babe, I'm sorry. I just got up. I was about to throw up for so long." She says, "Then why are your friends over? Why do you keep saying sorry for the same shit over and over again? Like, all I was trying to do is come over and relax." He says, "Babe." She says, "Never works." He says, "I'm sorry. I'll pick you up in a little." She says, "It's if it's after 8, don't even bother." She emphasized one of her messages. She says, "Don't even come." Oh no. Then she says, "I just seen your story." Mm. She says, "I'm done." Um, why is she so upset that he's hanging out with his friends? Oh my god, they literally hang out so much. I can't even believe she gets upset about this. She's kinda calling him out. I know she is though, because he's probably posting hanging out with his friends, and but then he says, "Oh, I'm sick," and he doesn't wanna hang out with her. He does that does happen a lot. They do this to each other back and forth, right? Like, he flakes on her and she, like, threatens him, like, "You come by a certain time," like, just very toxic behavior. Okay, let's continue. Bye, Felicia says to me. Okay, she says, "I'm done. Looks like you were having a hard time puking next to B." He says, "Babe, I just got up." She liked her message that she said. She says, "Were you throwing up all he took as he took that picture of you?" He says, "I was about to puke like an hour ago." She said, "I'm for real sick of your friends. I'm about not to F with any of them." He says, "Babe, come on, they won't be here that long." She says, "I don't care. Literally my face right now. Okay, I'm really about to not just come over and go to bed. That shit really effing annoying." He says, "Why? Can still get you in a little." She says, "Before 8?" "Because I don't think you can." Then she sends 5 question marks. She says, "Like, I'm already tired. I'm so fed up. F your friends. You're lucky I'm not pulling up with brass." Whoa, dude. What is going on? She likes yeah. How have how anyone tolerate her is beyond me, yeah. He says, "Kinsey, it isn't just because we chillin', it's business too. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't have promised to everyone. I figured you would come and wait till they leave or I'd get you when they leave." She says, "Nah, nah, they don't have to leave because I'm not coming over." The fact that you're not answering right away says it all. Also, like I said 8 times, you keep saying sorry for the shit you're gonna do a day later. "I'm going to bed," she said. He says, "Babe, I'm about to come soon." She says, "No, don't." He says, sad face. She says, "Now you know how I feel. Like you really couldn't be before 8, like you can never you never come fast for me here." She says, "You literally take your sweet time no matter how the F I'm feeling." She sends an emoji. I don't know why those are blank. "And you can't even answer," she says. "This is why I'm not coming over, because you really give 0 effort." So she's trying to call him as she's texting him. She says, "You're so dumb." She says, "I'm done. Thanks for ruining my night. Okay, Imma go home." She sends a picture of herself. I think it's of herself. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. She's sending pics of herself, and then it jumps to the next morning at 6:29 AM. She says, "Good morning, babes. My mom is literally the most annoying person I ever met." He says, "I love you, babe. Try to have a good day at school." She says, "I love you too, babes. Babe, or Bessie just texted me the most annoying shit. My nail appointment isn't today, it's Thursday, and I effing work. I just want to go home." He says, "Babe, you can come cuddle me then." She says, "Babe, I'm gonna come over after Polaris." He says, "Okay, babe. Don't," she says, "Don't forget about blunt. I'm coming over soon." He says, "I just got out of the shower." She says, "Bet. Come soon." About to be out of school. He says, "Bet. I'm about to start rolling this." She says, "I'm home, babe." "Babe?" He says, "About to dip. Jared's." She says, "Yay. How long?" He says, "5 minutes." "You need picked up?" She says, "Probably." He says, "Here." She says, "Okay, bet." He says, "Do you want me to pull in?" And then that ends there. He says the next day, he says, "Good morning, babe. I love you. Good luck at doctors, babe." He says, "Good morning, babe." Mackenzie says, "Good morning, baby. I love you so much." He says, "Send me a pic with money." She says, "What one?" He says, "On my shoulder. I didn't get that one." She says, "I'm at the doctor. Give me like an hour." He says, "Okay, love you, babe." She says, "My mom is being so annoying. She has interrupted me 60 times." just to talk about dumb shit that doesn't matter. They were supposed to check my thyroid at the doctor last time and they just did it. I'm so pissed right now. What? He says, "Well, then I don't know, get what you need to say after." She says, "Do you want me to get more blood work?" He says, "What's going on now, babe?" She says, "I'm on the way home." He says, "How did it go?" She says, "It went okay, but way less than the dumb ER." He says, "So do you not have cannabinoid? What's going on with your thyroid and stuff?" She says, "Roll a wood. I'm coming over." In caps. He says, "I'm at Jared's, babe. I can leave in a sec. There is a wood rolled, though. You can hit." She says, "Yay." He says, "Do you want me to leave now? We were gonna get lunch real quick." Babe, so I don't think you should smoke every day before school. She says, "You can get food with him." I'm not going to smoke before school ever again. LMAO. I'm going to smoke though after school. He says, "Good." She says, "Let me know when you're free." He says, "On the way." She says, "Should I hit the bong right now?" He says, "I don't know. That's your choice, babe." He says, "You'll def get R word, RETARDE." She says, "I'm gonna do it." She says, "How long, babe?" He says, "I'm almost home." She says, "Bet, want a scoop?" He says, "Yeah." She says, "I'm ready whenever." He says, "Okay." He says, "By Whitney." She says, "Bet." He says, "Here." And then she says, she laughed at his message. She said, "What's going on later with Luke?" Later? Oh, with Luke. Kyle. He says, "I'm going there at 6. So if I just go and you hang with Megan, I won't be super long." She says, "Oh, I wanted to go." She sends a picture. I can't see it. She says, "How much are these?" She says, "Babe." He says, "Those ain't Jordans." Oh, it was a box of shoes. She says, "Oh, do you like them?" He says, "Eh." He says, "They're okay." She says, "That's how I feel about them too." He says, "They're not a good brand. I just wouldn't get them." She says, "Okay, coming over." He says, "I'm not home yet, but okay." She says, "Where are you at?" She says, "Come get me, or I can come to you." Like, what the F is wrong with you? Oh, so yeah. She says, like, what the F? I was checking the time. It's 7:30 p.m. Like, what the F is wrong with you? I shouldn't have spent $60 on you. You really said I can get dropped off to Kyle's. I told you I was passing by your house and you said, "Come." Then as I'm turning, you say no. Like, hell no. He says, I didn't know you had a bunch of shit." She says, "Dom, I effing don't. It's a small bag." Like, you're for real making me mad, wasting my effing day. He says, "I thought you meant like all the shit you bought shopping. I can leave in a sec. I've been here a grip too." She says, "Yeah, I'm just going home." He says, "Okay, question mark." She says, Of course you say that. So dumb." He says, "Why? Why are you this mad?" She says, "Because you literally love to waste my time." He says, "Okay, babe." She says, "I didn't have to go get you sage and crystals just for you to tell me yes and tell me no." He says, "I didn't know what you meant." She says, "Like you said, come now, and I'm halfway down Prospect, you say no." He says, "I don't try to waste your time." She says, "If you didn't, then why the F didn't you ask?" No effort, she says. And Dom says, "You probably just turned on Prospect." She says, "And you probably didn't listen to anything I say." He says, "Well, I know I thought you meant a bunch of shit." She, not no. She says, "It is, but it's small. I for real want to return it now. Like, such a waste of time. And you literally don't even care. How many times do I tell you a day that if I say I'm going to leave and you just say, okay, it pisses me off even more?" She sends 20 question marks. He says, "I'm about to go home, babe." She says, "I don't care. I could have been dropped off like 10 minutes ago and we could have been together. But of course, you had to make it a big effing deal and complicated, like always when I'm trying to help. Now I'm effing home. I don't want to come over because I'm pissed off again. And you don't even care enough to tell me to come over because all you do is say, okay, when I say I don't want to come. Like, answer fast. I know you're on the phone." She's trying to call him. He says, "I'm about to go home. Sean called me." She says, "Did you even read?" She says, a bunch of question marks and exclamations. "No," question mark, she says. Like, that's all you've been saying the last two texts. Clearly, I don't give an F. You're for real acting dumb, so are you trying to make me more mad? She says, "Do you think acting like that is going to help at all?" Question mark. Question mark. And then she says, "OMG, yeah, I'm done. You are so rude," with like 20 O's. And he says, "What? I was driving home." She says, "Why the F do you keep saying when you are not reading? Like if you want to know how about you effing read what I'm saying. It's not that hard." He says, "I'm not trying to make you mad." She says, "Then why are you not answering anything I'm saying? You're still not." She emphasized it. She sends 10 question marks. She says, "Are we hanging out? Yes or no?" 6 question marks. And then he says, "Yes, babe, we're hanging out. I said on the phone." He sends 5 question marks. He says, "We next door." She said, "K." He says, "Are you mad?" She says, "I'm on the way right now." She says, "I'm on the way right now." And then it jumps to the next morning. He says, "I woke up and the light next door was off." She says, "What the hell? Who the F was over there?" He says, "I don't know, babe. Isn't that weird?" She says, "Kind of freaky." He says, "I'm a hurry, shower, and head over." She says, "Yeah, let me know what's up. I'm going to come over after Polaris for a sec. I need some bud." He says, "You're not allowed to smoke before school." Wait, what's going on with smoking before school? I thought she always did it. What happened? Did I miss something? Hey, Dane, thank you, Dana, here for the super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Oh, Shanta's late. Shanta's late. She's so exhausting. Oh my gosh. What is with her? He clearly doesn't want to bring her around his friends, but then they go back and forth. How do they even enjoy hanging out with each other, with their own friends, when they're always fighting over text? Hey, Mandy's tacos. Brass like shells, probably. Like shells? I think she meant brass knuckles. Hey, baby, right? Oh, thank you, Dina here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the other super chat. Love you too, girl. Love you too, babelet. As if that stick could throw what? um, I'm ready to just go. Yeah. Okay, let's FYI, I'll no longer respond to any comments that don't end in babe. I know. That's all they call each other here. That or rude names. Okay, so he says you're not allowed to smoke before school. She says, I miss you. He says, "I'll see you later, babe." She says, "Why?" Answer FaceTime. WTF? She says, "Okay, whatever," or "Don't answer and give me weird vibes." Okay, she really has like trust issues. Like, oh, bullets? Really? I don't know what she meant. Um, she really has trust issues. Like, she freaks out when he doesn't answer right away. He doesn't text. Like, we know he's cheated on her before, so we kind of understand, but she's also just too controlling and possessive. I don't like that at all. She says, "Okay, don't answer and give me weird vibes." She says, "On my life." "Yeah, you really dry. I know you're home." "Of course, you can never answer in time." "Fed up with this shit," she says. Like, what does he think? Okay, for to be, what I'm trying to say is to be that like this, like, what do you think he's doing? Because if you know he's home, why are you texting him like this? Like, does she really think Dom is like cheating inside his house? Or like what? She's just being crazy, psycho, possessive. I think she has like confidence issues. And I think that she wants Dom's approval for everything. You know what I mean? She's a student that will either be on the phone. Yeah. Stalker much. He's into his guy friends and she's this annoying brat. That's what LJ said. Okay. She said, "Fed up with this shit." He said, "Check signal." She says, "I'm on the way home." Dom, babe, I have, oh, she says, "I have a yeast infection." He says, "I'm sorry, babe." He says, "How do you know?" She says, "My mom thinks I do." She says, "It doesn't smell at all." He says, "Damn, well, I don't know." She says, "Just really itchy and really burn." She says, "I just want babe cuddles." He says, "I wish I could give you babe cuddles." She says, "I want my babe. I really don't want to go to school tomorrow." Okay, so that's what that was what the issue was then with Dom, right? Different day, same shit, says Alicia. It's unhealthy, immature all the way around. Yeah, this is crazy because remember they had a whole fight because he was like blaming her. Remember on the phone? She was like, "Why are you saying that it was my fault?" Remember? And then someone in the comments was like, "Melly is being no, she is not being compassionate." And I'm like, "Dude, yeah, LJ. Girl, he don't care." Well, wow. Hmm. That's crazy. It created a whole ass fight. My coffee is so good, by the way. Let me be your new barista. Okay. She says, I really don't want to go to school tomorrow. He says, Babe, I don't know what to say. You at least go to Polaris. She says, Okay, babe, I love you so much. He says, I love you too, babe. He says, How is school, babe? I can't read what that text message says. He sends a screenshot. He says, I keep seeing this number that was on 25. And she says, Morning, babe. She says, Wow. It's crazy. We're already seeing angel numbers. They're def sending you messages. Pay attention to those. Dom says, No, I've been seeing this, babe. Did you go to school? She says, Yeah, I'm on the way home right now. He says, Nice. She says, I will always look at the time on my birthday. He says, What does that do? She says, He sends a screenshot again of something. He says, This guy's fire. She says, Send me a song you like by him. He says, Just listen to F Love and F Love Savage. He reminds me of like Ian Dior Trippy Red, the rapper. He says, Listen to I Wish. He says, Mackenzie says, I'm going to listen right now. I'm about to smoke the weed you gave me. He says, Okay, if you want to FaceTime for a sec, we can. I'm waiting to get in the shower. She says, Babe, I was driving. He says, LOL, my bad. She says, On the way to school, want to hang out after school? He says, Probably. She says, Yay. She says, I can come, right, babe? He says, Can I with B a little longer? Then we can. She says, I get off at 2:20. She says, Signal. And she says, I'm free. She says, Want to hang? So wait, she says, What time is it? I'm free at 6:22. She says, Want to hang? He says, Yeah, leaving Trevor soon. He says, Want to go to Mia's tonight? She says, Okay. She says, What are we doing there? He says, I don't know. He says, Kyle said I can slide and bring anyone. She says, I don't care if we go. He says, Okay. He says, Here. She says, I'm coming. Uh-oh. They're going out. They're hanging out with friends. I always feel like most of the time it ends in a fight. I forgot what angel number is. Melly, you need to have more compassion. Oh my gosh, Jackie. Jackie says, Melly, you need to have more compassion for Dom's age. Oh man, don't worry about those people. Thank you. Hot issue detective says what she meant about the angel number. I think it's when you see. Okay, let's look it up. Well, I don't know if like because this is the year before. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't think she was referring to it in like in a sense of the acts, like the crash or slash accident, whatever people want to call it. An angel number is a repeating sequence of numbers like 111 or 444 that some believe are messages of guidance and confirmation from spiritual guides or the universe. These numbers are tied to numerology, where each number is believed to have a distinct vibrational energy or meaning beyond its numeric value, offering insight for a person's life path. Um, Not the 6969. Stop cracking me up. Stop it. Asin, you're late. No kisses for Asin. Usually repeating them. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Vacay. I just saw that. She needs to get a hobby besides drugs and stalking. They all mean something different. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Some are good, some are bad. Are you catching my drift? Um. Okay, let's continue. What? Says Asin. Okay, she says, so they're gonna go out and hang out at Mia's. She says, coming. He says, I knew it. She says, that was at 6:51. He picked her up. She says, at midnight, you're dumb enough to not come over here and check on me. We knew something was gonna go down. He says, do you want to leave soon? I thought you were talking to Mia. She says, so dumb. Obviously, I want to leave. I've been telling you I want to leave for the past 2 hours. dude, this is why he doesn't want to bring you around. Because you always bitching and want to leave. Like, don't be a party pooper. New to the channel, love watching. Hey, Sharian. Thanks for being here, girl. Welcome to the Babelets. Hey, Whittle. I'm good. Millie's bad. They text each other in the same room. You guys, this is crazy. Like, this is part of the reason why he doesn't want her around. I wouldn't just let her leave or don't go. Like, if you're going to be unhappy there. Okay, so she says, obviously, I've been telling you I want to leave for the past 2 hours. Okay, so let's see something crazy. So she's 7 p.m. Say they get there at like 7:15 or whatever, 7:30, depending on how far it is. And then she says, for 2 hours, I've been wanting to leave. So 7:15, and now it's 12:11 at midnight. Oh, 10. So that's literally like the whole time they were there almost. She says, I've been wanting to leave for the past 2 hours. I've been telling you I am in pain. He says, okay, we'll leave soon. She says, and all you care about is your shitty ass boy. Oh, she says, blunt. I don't know what she meant. He says, not really. I just didn't want to drive. He says, I can't see that good. What if my keys are outside from when I fell? This is at 2:43 now in the morning. What if my keys are outside from when I fell? Mackenzie says there's already irritating AF. I'm over here telling my mom I want to quit because wait, it's weird that jumped to the next morning. So he says, what if my keys are outside from when I fell? So Dom must have fell. That was at 2:25 a.m. Then at almost 9 a.m., she says, that's irritating AF. I'm over here telling my mom I want to quit because I don't feel good. She's like, oh yeah, what? Paperwork. You sent messages all the time. People do this all the time. I literally don't care. People work sick all the time. He says, fill me in better. He said, Dom says, she's saying you should work sick. Mackenzie says, I'm telling her I don't feel good and I don't want to work. And she's saying I need a job. Like, I just want to quit. I, for real, have not wanted to go to work one day. He says, if you need to quit, then quit. Who cares? No. That's not like the best advice. I mean, where is she working now? Because didn't she just get a new job? I forgot. Oh, Mandy, thank you for joining the Babelit team. Thank you. Welcome to Mellyverse. I think you just renewed, right? I think you were already a member. Anyways, thanks, Babelit. I wonder if she went a day without any issues. She thought, was it Duncan? Because she was so much. We go through so much that I can't keep up. But I thought she said she got a new job, so maybe Duncan. Anyways, he says, if you need to quit, then quit. Who cares? He says, is the job bad? She says, I feel bad quitting. And yes, the job is that bad. He says, because you've been having a hard time finding a good one. He says, yeah, then quit. She says, I just don't want to be the one to quit. I want someone else to do it for me. What? It's your job, dude. You have to quit yourself. Like, Maya Beamlet. Hi, of course, Widow. Hi, Brenda. Hey, Babelet. Between the clinic and so-called work and stalking school, she's exhausting. Yeah, I know. See, lazy ass. She can't quit herself, says Mandy. I know. She wants Natalie to quit for her LMAO or Dom. That is actually quite hilarious. I can't even believe it. She's like, she wants someone to quit for her. Oh my gosh, that's funny. She says, like, I'm scared too. She is young though. I think I'm laughing in a sense of like, if like she's only 16 here. I don't know, but still. She says, because I feel bad, but OMG, I effing hate this job. She says, like, I feel bad leaving right before Valentine's Day, but oh my gosh, the manager just sits on her ass all the time. He says, then quit. He says, go quit today. She says, what would I even say? He says, just walk in. I quit. Walk out, he said. She says, OMG. That would be the bad way to do it. He says, "I don't know, like, what you have to do, quit like, you gotta sign any papers?" She says, "Like, with this infection, I'm just standing there in pain all day, and she doesn't let me go to the back one time. No, you just either put in 2 weeks or say that, but I'm gonna be respectful about it." He says, "Just say that you quit. That's what else do you say?" She says, "I don't know. I never really quit." She says, "I don't even want to fully quit. I just want a paper that says I don't need to work for like 2 or 3 months until I'm back on track." Oh, Lord. She says, "But of course, no one's helping with that." He says, "Well, I guess you're finding out, LMAO." He says, "Because every day I go and I just feel different type of shitty. I'm either sore, cold, none of this effing dumbass infection." He says, "I don't care. I don't know if you can get a paper for that. I just quit. The manager sucks. And there's always more Mayleys." She says, "I don't even want to work at Mayleys." I don't know what that is. He says, "Then quit, babe. There's a lot of places to work." She says, Dom says, "You're not doing a bad thing. You're going to quit, then get fat AF with me." She says, "I feel like I am." He says, "No, babe, you're fine." He says, "Babe with the tummy." What? She says, "I'm about to send you a funny snap." He says, "Okay, babe." She says, "Yeah, I don't know what to do because I work at 11. I'm not about to stand there with this pain all day." He says, "Go in and quit. F that manager." Mackenzie says, "My mom is going to get a note and talk to her for a little bit." Wow. Not Natalie Shirilla girl. Signing her, trying to get her to go to work. Oh, for her. I bet we knew it. We knew it. She don't know. She's always infected. You know, I guess I'm gonna be compassionate here because someone said I wasn't being compassionate. I do feel for her because she's always not me being petty and sarcastic. Um, she I do think she has health issues though because she's always saying she don't feel good. You know what I mean? Like she's always like has a stomach ache, she always has a headache. She's always I feel like always got something going on. And so I wonder really what her health problems were. Oh no. Don't you agree? There's always like something going on, I think, with either one of them. Can I be a babyito? Oh my god, is she yeah. Work requires working. Dude, I can't even on the toilet probably. Being malnourished does that. I know in the comments a lot of you guys say that it's that she has an eating disorder too. Do we know that for a fact? I don't know because that could contribute to a lot of other health problems. I don't know if that's the case though. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Either that or she's just looking for pity. The weed causes her stomach aches and headaches, so be petty. I don't mind, says Meadows. She needs to eat a cheeseburger. Okay, let's see. Let's continue. She says, "My mom is going to get a note and talk to her for a little bit." He says, "Nice." She says, "Yeah, but next week that dumb bee made me work 3 days in a row closing, and I'm gonna have to clean everything those 3 days. That's the one thing I told her I didn't want to do more work than 1 day in a row." She says, "Answer." He says, "When I come, do you want me to bring anything?" She says, "You can bring whatever. I'm just in the bathtub right now. LMAO." This is at 2:10 p.m. in the middle of the day. Right? Yeah. And then she says that I'm in the bathtub. And then she says, "You can just come in here while I sit here. I'm trying to not be in pain." He says, "Oh, my little babe." She sends an audio message. He sends an audio message back. Okay. Then she sends a sad face, like a emoji person. He says, "So what, you want me to just sit in there while you bathe?" He said, "Is everyone gonna be okay with that?" She said, "I'm just sitting in the bath. I don't think anyone would care that much if you're just sitting in here with me, or you could wait till I'm out. Ha have to sit here for 15 minutes, then I'm gonna do something with honey and you can come. It's up to you." He says, "Okay, let me know when you're done, babe. I'm gonna try to figure out what I gotta do today." She said, "I wanna come with." He said, "Okay, right now, all I'm doing is just about to smoke real quick, then burn this box." He says, "I'm done. What's the plan?" She says, "Just come get me, I'm ready, or you can roll a blunt and I'll get dropped off." He says, "That's what I was gonna ask also. I gotta brush my teeth real quick." She said, "Okay, so I'm about to come." She says Dom says, "Okay, what you wanna smoke, wood or hemp?" She says, that was at 3:24 PM. Then the next morning, she says, "Morning, babe." The 7th. He says, "Good morning, babe, I love you." She says, "Are you mad at me, babe?" He says, "No, babe." She says, "I feel like you're mad because I have no energy. I just don't feel good at all." He says, "No, babe. I just kinda gotta do things. I can't lay down all day." She says, "Okay, I love you so much, babe. We don't have to lay down all day. I can help you do whatever you need." He says, "Are you gonna be here for Super Bowl?" She says, "What time is that?" "I do wanna be here for that." And she sends 2 to 3 TikToks. He says, "I don't know, for real." She says, "I have a message at 1, a massage at 1 and a nail appointment at 5." He says, "Okay." She says, "Where you at?" "Babe, babe, babe, I have to leave in like 5 minutes," she says. "So tell me where you're at." "Okay, I guess you're not gonna answer?" Like, I have to leave. It's all fixed. Wait, what does that mean? Like, I have to leave. And then she's like, "It's all fixed." She says, "My mom wants to go to dinner with her, so I'm meeting with her right now." He says, "What's up, babe?" She says, "I'm meeting with my mom. Then I'll come over." He says, "Okay, babe." She sends a picture of, I think, the restaurant. He says, "Where are you?" She says, "Leo's Italian social." He says, "Lit." She says, "I'm excited. Food is taking a while. It was good AF. Megan and Maddie want to go roller skating. Would you want to go?" I mean, Scene 75, he says, "The Super Bowl's about to start." She said, "I thought it already did." He says, "No, they're singing right now." She said, "So do you not want to do any of that? I feel like I'll just fall asleep during the Super Bowl. Steven 75 would be really fun." He says, "I would, but I think the Super Bowl won't be over till later." She says, "Scene 75 closes at 9. Are you with Sheen?" She says, "Babe." He says, "Yeah, Blair, Sheen, Ashish, and Angelo. Game just started. Go have fun with them." She says, "Fine. I miss you, though." He says, "I miss you too, babe." Then at 8:30, she says, "I'm home, babe. What are you doing? When is the game going to be over?" He said, "It's still third quarter, babe." She says, "No. What time will it be over?" He says, "I don't know. Fourth just started, so probably 10 at least." She says, "Babe." He says, "It's about to be over soon, babe." She says, "Well, I need to shower." She says, "I'm really sick and gross right now. I'm about to shower. Babe, I don't feel good." He says, "Come over and cuddle." He says, "Sorry, I passed out." Wait. He says, "Come over and cuddle at 11 PM. Oh, angel numbers. And he says, then at 6:30 in the morning, he says, "Sorry, I passed out." Ugh, can't work, can roller skate. The bugs are the only thing getting high. She still hasn't picked out an outfit, you guys. She's so monastic. A massage and nail appointment and no job. Yeah, how does that work? I guess it's all that cart money. Smoke wood. This chick is smoking star logs from Home Depot. Oh my gosh. Dom made all that money peddling rugs to kids, says Kimberly. She has no start. As much as they smoke, no one texts about bringing talk. I know. Okay, he says, "Sorry, babe, I passed out at 6:30 in the morning." She says, "I don't feel good at all." What is going on with her? That's way more than what she's saying here. Like, she's no start, babe. Like, she's not, it's been like a week at this point, I think, that she's not feeling well. Like, what is going on? I'm concerned for her well-being at this point. She says, "I don't feel good at all." He says, "Did you go to school?" She says, "No, I'm at home." He says, "Are you going to school?" She says, "Probably not. I'm so effing pissed. My mom is the most unhelpful person ever, and my skin is effing burning." He says, "Sometimes you just gotta not listen to everyone else." She says, "What?" He says, if she's not helping, don't listen to her. I don't know. She says, that's not what I'm saying at all. What made you say that? That made no sense. I wasn't asking her for help. And I did a new face routine today and it's burning my effing skin. Like WTF. He says, oh, damn, babe, what you put on your face? She says, that stuff my facial lady recommended. Yeah, I'm about to smoke. I'm for real about to freak out. He says, yeah, go smoke and chill. He says, I'm gonna work out a little. We can smoke if you want. She said, I have school today though, babe. She said, I'm down to smoke and hang. He says, when do you go to school, babe? Let me know when you want to hang. He says, I'm gonna work out. We can hang until you go to school. She says, I don't know if I'm gonna go. I really don't feel good and my skin is burning. He says, if you don't go, you can come here. She says, okay, babe, I just want to relax. Can we cuddle all day? He says, that's exactly what I wasn't trying to do, though, to be honest. I'm about to be done working out. If you want to come for breakfast. She says, I'm still at Polaris, babe. I'm on the Polaris meet. Oh, what do you want me to do then? Because I don't feel good at all. He says, I don't know. I just know I've been sitting around too much trying to get work. She says, I can do that as long as it's not too much. My stomach effed right now. He says, aw, my babe. Come here so I can kiss you and go, aw, my babe. She says, babe, I want to come, but I already told you that I'm at on my Polaris meet 2 times. I can't just come over when I'm on a meet. He says, when is it over? She says, 10:50. 40. He says, oh, that's only an hour. When do you go to school or are you not going? She says, 11:40 is my school. I don't know if I'm going to go to the high school today because it literally hurts to move. He sends a song from SoundCloud. She says, that's what Dom sent. And then he says, then don't go, babe. Listen to that. He says, it's from my homie from Canton. He's good. And Mackenzie says, I'm listening right now. He says, bet. She says, he's not bad. Is he popping right now? Dom says, popping? No, he has like 5,000 plays. She said, like hella views. And she says, oh. He says, yeah, he's not popular. He's just a little weed dealer from Canton. Mackenzie said, he's pretty good. He said, right? That song pretty nice. Mackenzie says, yeah, it's cool. I'm just so tired. He said, what? She says, I'm really tired. I feel like straight shit right now. He says, I'm sorry, babe. Do you have time to nap? She says, no, I don't have time to nap in this psycho ass house. I cannot wait till you move into your new house because I hate this house so much. This house is full of psychopaths. My mom just tried to ground me because I hung up on her to go to the bathroom. Like, what the actual F? He says, one thing I learned about being totally honest with you is everyone who listens to their friends/family fails. Um, ew. Ew. You guys. They're always hanging out and both smoking. That's not a relationship with Don. That's a relationship with weed. Something is going on here. She has like the flu or some immune something because I think it's a lot more than just itchiness. House of Psychopaths is correct. Is everyone he said and everyone who listens to their friends and families fails. It's true, too. I think Warren Buffett said that. That's what Dom said. Mackenzie says it def is true. It's so hard to find someone who gives good advice. And who the F grounds someone over that? He says, that's because you give the best advice. I'm making eggs right now if you want to come over. She says, I'm a come. Oh, I have to sneeze. Oh, it went away. She's always nasty. She's just lazy. Yeah. Mono. Oh, that's a good theory. That could be a good one because that one does really like bring down your immune system really bad. Over a long period of time, I feel like, because that shit don't go away for a while. It could be mono, yeah. Ooh, that sucks. Thyroid? Maybe that too. Ew. Free clinic time. Okay, let's see. She says, I'ma come. He says, okay, babe. She says, I for real believe you just left me in here crying. Then go to Jared's. So Imma just go home, she says. Oh, wow, that's at 11:34. Wait, let me go back. I can't believe you just left me in here crying to go to Jared's. So Imma just go home because even if I had to work, I would stay here with you. He says, "Babe, you were just getting mad at me when I was asking you what I should do. I told you couldn't I told you I couldn't just lay down all day. I had to do some stuff." He's Mackenzie says, "I was never getting mad at you. It's just so weird that you could just never sit and be with me. Like, I'm in serious pain and you care more about your packs?" She says, "I'm probably just gonna go home and take a hot bath." "Yeah, I'm leaving," she says. Dom says, "Babe, I have to do this shit though. Like, I want to stop. I can't, babe. Money's really stressful to me right now. I'm sorry, babe. I love you." He says, "Babe, how are you feeling, babe? Let me know if you need anything." At 5:21 p.m., she says, "What's up?" He says, "Not much. What's up with you, babe?" She says, "Nothing. I'm just laying in bed in pain." He says, "Do you want me to come over later?" She says, "If you want. I'm just gonna lay here all dead." "That's okay. We can just watch TV," says Dom. "I'm kinda having toilet problems, though." Mackenzie says, "I feel like there's always a problem when you wanna come over here." Dom says, "Kenzie, I've been shitting water. I'll send you pic next time." Ew! Mackenzie says, "How come every time you wanna come over here, though, you have an issue with something? I've been wanting to hang all day." He says, "I don't know, babe. My stomach been messed up." She says, "Why would you ask if I wanted you to come over then if you weren't going to?" He says, "'Cause I'm gonna try, babe." She says, "You sure?" He says, "To be honest, no, LOL." And she says, "WTF?" He said, "What?" He says, "I wasn't. I was saying I wasn't sure." She says, "You're not sure if you're going to try to hang out?" He says, "No. Not sure if I'm gonna come, but I'm gonna try." She says, sideways face, "What are you doing that's so important right now?" He says, "I'm about to take a shit. That's all I have to just shit a lot. I'm tired." She says, "So you're not coming over?" He says, "Babe, I don't know. Do you want me to come over?" Stupid question. My bad. I don't know. I really don't want to have to shit at your house, but if it can make me feel better, my tummy feel better. She says, "I just want to lay down, babe. I want you to cuddle me." He says, "Babe, I want to cuddle you too." She says, "Please come, babe. I just want to lay down. I'm not feeling good." She says, "Okay." He says, "Babe, I'm sorry. I fell asleep." Wait, so she says, "Just come, babe." Okay, at 9:51. Then at 6:59 the next morning, he says, "Babe, I'm sorry I fell asleep. I'm gonna make it up to you tomorrow." She says, "I feel like you always say I'm gonna make it up to you, but you never do. LMAO. I'm so ready to give up on literally everything. F school, F Polaris, F my family." Dom says, "Why, babe?" She says, "Are you not going to read anything else and just answer the one thing?" He says, "That's what matters right now." She said, "Well, one thing, I'm missing a pair of eyelashes. I can't effing put them on. Two, I desperately do not want to go to school at all today, but I have to because of the Polaris hours. I have the worst stress and anxiety, and that's what I'm supposed to not have, to just keeps getting worse and worse." Dom says, "Could you just go to Polaris then?" She says, "I really don't want to. Like, I don't even have the motivation to get up. Like, I don't even care anymore. I don't even know if I want to be a cosmetologist." He says, "Your self integrity is off, what I think it's called." She says, "And I know I'm definitely not going to the high school today." He says, Look, go to Polaris, get through it." She says, "Like, I really don't want to do anything anymore. And somebody stole a pair of eyelashes from me." Dom says, "Probably Kendra." She says, "I'm about to smoke. I texted her. I don't think she did." Dom says, "Okay, babe, just try to get through Polaris, and I'm going to try to figure out how to get your self integrity back." Wow. Okay, who's stealing her eyelashes? Because, girl, I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. The cat took the eyelashes. Stop it right now. Hey, Michelle. That's hilarious. Um, yeah, he just said, and I'm gonna try and figure out how to get your self integrity back. He sends like a screen. Oh gosh, he Googled something. And she says, "It's not always something like that. I could just be depressed right now, and I wouldn't be surprised." He says, "Yeah, you probably just in a little slump, but you got to slump through it." Sorry, let me fix my chair. He says, but you got to slump through it. Think of it like this. Mackenzie says, I slept all day yesterday. I really don't think that's it. He says, if you had 10 years left to live, would you change how you live now? Oh, yeah. Somebody got mad at me too in the comments because I said something about like Gandhi. And someone was like, that's not even comparable. And I was like, oh my gosh, not the stink eye. Yeah. Okay, so he says, if you had 10 years left to live, would you change how you live? She says, don't be mad, but I smacked myself on the head like twice. I don't know why. Whoa, Mackenzie said that. Okay, this is kind of like new, right? It's usually Dom hitting his head, right? Lies. You guys think she's doing it? Sorry, I was drinking. I don't want to be slurping all up in your ear. I don't believe her. You guys all said that. You guys are all saying that she's just doing it for attention. I don't know. She seems to be going through it. Like she hasn't been feeling good for a while. She's just being, you know, I'm sure that's probably not easy. Feeling like shit all the time. She said, don't be mad, but I smacked myself in the head like twice. I don't know why. He says, if you knew the date of your death, the exact day, how would you be spending your time? Says Dom. She says, I would not go to school anytime. I would move out of this house. I wouldn't work and travel, not wake up at 6:30 to go to Polaris. He says, well, that's dope, but you're not really getting the point. She says, I don't care about the point. All I know is I feel like shit. I have no effing makeup on and I'm stressed AF and nobody is helping. He says, could you just try to get through Polaris for me? She says, yeah, babe, but I'm gonna be in a effing bad mood. He says, could you just try to enjoy what you can? Think if the minutes were counting down, you wouldn't want to sit around in a bad mood. He sends a song on SoundCloud. This song is really good, he says. She says, I'm at Polaris right now, about to go to class. He says, okay, babe, text me after. Love you. She says, love you too, babe. He says, the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the doors will open. Is he on shrooms when he's saying these things? Everyone stop right now. Okay, I take it back. I think she's just being a little bit dramatic. Yeah, like she's tripping about not having makeup on. I defended our Beyblade over that Gandhi thing. Thank you, Jamie. You did. She traveled to jail. Um, well, she almost got all her wishes. She got to move away from her parents' house and she doesn't have to work. They both use to each other for negative purpose and feed off each other's energy. Totally. He says, the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the doors will open. She says, it's hard to do anything when your stomach is in constant pain. She said, I need 2 carts today. Then she says, on the way home, babe. He says, I have no cards. She says, OMG, for real? She says, I forgot. She says, what are you doing? He says, I'm about to go somewhere real quick. I can't find the keys to next door, though. She says, OMG, where could they be? He says, I don't know, for real. But I'm going to stop by in a little. She says, do you want to hang today? He says, yeah. She says, okay, when can we hang? He says, I'm going to stop by your house in a little. He says, and I'll pick you up. She says, how long? He says, let's just say between 12:30 and 1. She says, okay, just let me know. Are you going to make it up to me today or what? He says, what do you want me to do, babe? She says, I'm not going to tell you. You're supposed to make it up to me like you said you were going to. He says, okay, babe, I'll see you soon. She says, I love you, babe. He says, I love you too, babe. The next day, she says, good morning, babeums. He says, good morning, babe. I love you. She says, I'm salty AF right now. Can I call you? And then he sends like a little picture of an inspirational quote. She says, I love you so much. So they must have talked on the phone. She says, you're so cute, babe. I would never leave you. He says, love you, baby. But when you trying to argue, I'm a dip sometimes. She says, no. She says, I'm at the gyno right now. He says, gyno? She says, yeah, the doctor. He says, the vagina doctor. She says, yeah, LOL. She says, I'm on the way home. He says, I'm at Jared's still. He said, what's your plan for today? She said, I don't know. I want to hang with you. She says, I gained weight. Dom says, yeah, yay, how much? She says, 96 pounds. Dom said, so 6 pounds? Mackenzie said, thanks. She said, wait, spell check. Yeah, it's crazy. He says, you're doing really good, babe. I know it's hard for you, but you're doing a good job. She says, yeah, I'm really bloated and I feel like straight shit, but hopefully I get my period. I'm going to start birth control again. He said, no, don't do that. Just try to get your period and make sure you keep it. She sends a long screenshot of a message and she says, what a dumbass. He says, what a bitch. She says, I know, right? I dogged her. He says, I got to show you how to handle things. So I wonder, he sent a screenshot of a text. I'm just reading the messages. Don't come for me. She was trying to gain weight. Yeah. She would drive me crazy. I would be out, says Rochelle. She opens her eyes up for the day already salty. I know. She like doesn't even see the sunlight and she's like, I'm salty. Imagine. Evie says, I love these lives. Hey, Evie. Can you imagine these two having kids? Oh no. Oh no. Hey, Celie. So she was like struggling. Oh gosh. Every time I say Celie, Siri's going on my phone. Siri just went off. Oh, there she goes again. And I'm gonna stop saying her name. Never enjoys anything. Yeah. Okay, he says, I gotta show you how to handle things so none of this happens. Mackenzie said, she's such a bitch. Like, what the F is her issue? Dom says, she ugly. Maybe that's it. Probably something along the line of being insecure. Mackenzie says, 2 TikToks. 3 TikTok links. She says, I'm gonna go to the mall with Desmond. Oh, Desmo. She's from Cause, but I need to go get some stuff. Dom says, okay, babe, I'm on the way home. He says, if we pay 100 extra, we can get in our room at 2 and leave at 12 a.m. Friday. But if not, it's 4 and 11. But me and Blair might just split it and we can leave our stuff in the room till ours is open. So I wonder if these blank messages were like pics of something. Because I don't know what he's referring to here. Huh. Going somewhere? He says, should we do that? She says, I'm down. He says, I can pay 100, then we can get our own, or 50. She says, do whatever you think. I can chip in if you need me to. He says, no, you okay. She said, I tried to get you underwear, but they're all effing ugly. He says, LOL, it's okay. I don't care if they're ugly. She said, what brand? What size? He said, I need PSD. Medium. She says, okay. He says, okay, or Ethica. Medium. She says, on the way home. Oh, I actually like Ethica. He says, we got to pack. She says, I already packed up some shit. He says, nice. She says, what you all bringing, babe? He says, clothes, money, swim trunks, lotion, probably conditioner, body wash, shampoo. She says, I just got home. I'm tired AF. He says, I'm wired. I don't know why. She says, my stomach hurts so effing bad. I'm already so tired. Cause is going to be boring tomorrow because I'm going to be so excited. Do you want to hang out? I just want to take it easy though and relax. He says, can we hang out me and a little me and Angela about to play video games and we never do. She says, oh, you guys never do that. That sounds fun. I just seen your story. We're never going to get privacy online. He says, for real. She says, that shit's scary. He says, people just need to ditch technology. Mackenzie says, honestly, right? We only need Google, but like not even. Everything is just effed up. What are you guys playing? He says, NBA 2K. She says, I fell asleep. I don't know where they were going. We must have missed something in the blank text messages. I do not understand. What do you mean? They both smoke too much. Why does he constantly ask her to buy him underwear? What's the deal with his underwear? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay, that's what Mandy was referring to, the underwear, would be my guess. Ew, their brainwaves are just yeah, question marks. You guys are funny. Okay, so she says, "I fell asleep." So that was he texted at 8:55, and then she says, "I fell asleep at 11:33." He says, "It's okay, babe." He says, "I'm gonna go to sleep soon." He says, "Then I'll get ready tomorrow." She says, "I'm already bringing a shit ton of stuff." He says, "LMAO." She says, "Morning, babes." He says, "Good morning, babe. How did you sleep, baby?" She said. He says, "Not bad. I went to sleep late, though. What are you doing?" She responds with, "At Polaris. I got no sleep because I puked 2 times last night. Not few full pukes, but a little." He says, "You okay, baby? What's your list of what you're bringing? Can you bring me over the underwear you got?" She says, "Yes. 12:45 is when we need to be at Blair's." She sends a picture of her bag with her stuff in it. He says, "I need my underwear too." She says, Dom says, "Please bring them." She says, "I'm about to eat, then come. Also, we need to drop a car or edibles to her, or we got to roll a nice backwoods." That's what she said. Dom says, "Who?" Mackenzie says, "Should I go to Blair's mom, wherever she is?" Dom says, "If you see her, I'm going to be there in a sec, though." She says, "Should I just go walk around?" "I don't know where to go. I'm just going to wait." "Large or normal?" she says. Dom says, "Large." He says, "Where are you?" She says, "LOL. I am in line." She says, "You walked away before I could even finish my sentence. I wanted you to come relax with me for a little bit. You said you were going to when you were done cleaning. Are you smoking already? Don't forget to come and get me." He says, "No, where you want to smoke?" She says, "I'm here or in here or in the car." He says, "It's really dark in my room. Probably Toph's room or the car. What you want to do?" She says, "Well, am I the one to pick?" He says, "'Cause you're my babe. I want you to pick to make you happy." She says, "Will you pick today because it just stresses me out more to decide. I want to just sit and smoke and I need a phone charger." He says, "Babe, pick, babe. Should we just smoke in Toph's? 'Cause F him. Bring a chair or something." She says, "Okay, sure. I still need a charger." He says, "One sec." She says, "We're leaving for dinner at 4:30. So if you change your mind." He says, "Okay, babe." He says, "Did you leave yet?" Oh, wait. Did it skip to the next day? Oh, no, it's on the 13th. So he says, "Okay, babe. Did you leave yet? I can't find any of my headbands." She says, "You coming to dinner, babes?" He says, "No, I gotta do these carpet tiles." She said, "What's that?" You said, you sure you don't want to come?" He says, "We have hella carpet tiles for the basement and they're heavy and I gotta move them." She says, "Oh, okay. I love how you haven't hit me up all day at 7:32 p.m. He says, "I was waiting for you to hit me up. I thought you'd be busy." She says, "You know I answer when I'm busy." Dom says, I don't know. I'm sorry, babe. I must I was not having time for me a little reading. Then I had to do a play. Want to chill when I'm back?" Typos. She says, "When are you coming back?" She says, "I'm home." He says, "After this would probably." She says, "Where are you?" He says, "Jared's." She says, "Oh, it's already late. How long are you going to be there?" "'Cause I'm already tired." He says, "I just got here a little ago, just after the wood." She says, "My phone died." She says, "I'm ready." He says, "Here." Oh. And then Mackenzie says, "Now she's telling me to leave. Like, I swear to God, this makes me want to KMS." Question mark, question mark, question mark. 3 more question marks. 6 more question marks. Or just don't answer. Cool. Like, WTF. He says, "Babe, I left my phone in my room. So I gotta drive back again?" She says, "I for real hate my mom." Dom says, "You want anything from Five Guys?" Angelo's getting it. She says, "No, I don't want anything." "Should I just go to bed? I for real hate this house." He says, "Whatever you wanna do, babe. I'm sorry, I love you," Dom says. "You just need to be around them less, so then you can get along better." She says, "How about you stop saying whatever you wanna do when I ask you a question? And honestly, for real, my mom has issues. I try to be around them in the least, and she still finds a way to be annoying as F." And he says, "What do you mean by this?" She said, "Like when I ask you, what should I do? Don't say, quote unquote, whatever you want to do." He said, "Oh." She said, "But for real, like, did you hear her talking to me?" Dom says, "Well, I'm sorry, babe. I just don't want you to get mad at me." He says, "I won't do that anymore." She says, "I'm already mad, babe, but not at you." He says, "No, I didn't. My ear is effed." She says, "What?" He says, "I didn't hear what she said. I want to hear." And then he says, "From Kalahari water?" I don't know what that means. Mackenzie says, "I wish you could have heard. My ears hurt a little, but I can hear." She says, "Did you clean them?" He says, "My nose is F too." He says, "Yeah." She says, "Q-tip." He says, "They spotless." She said, "Ugh, that's the worst. My nose is always effed. Should we hang?" He says, "My nose is actually good right now. Thank God. Before it was so weird and effed." She says, "Mine is effed right now." He says, "I could hang. We wouldn't be doing much though." She says, "And I forgot to tell you a nail came off, but I glued it back on." He says, "I'm about to just eat some Five Guys, then Brawl Stars." She said, "It's already 10 anyways, but I will come if you want." "Yeah, I probably will just fall asleep." He says, "To be honest, it's either way is cool for me because if you don't come, I'll just go to bed earlier and see you tomorrow. But if you come, we can cuddle." She says, "Yay, I'm excited for Valentine's Day. I have to like shower and shit and prepare my Valentine's outfit for babe." He says, "Yeah, so let's just chill tomorrow. I'll try to think of a place and get reservations." Oh, because it's 2:13 right now. She said, "Let's FaceTime soon." He says, "Okay, babe." She says, "Yeah, my mom def ruined this dinner or like birthday dinner thing." He says, "I don't feel good, babe." Oh, Valentine's Day, 8:06 a.m. He says, "I don't feel good, babe." Here we go. Ready for the fight and the argument? Not true. She's going to be his trophy. His girlfriend from jail's out, and she didn't. Really? I'll have to watch that. Kason. She wants to get gifts, have Dom taking care of her, and do nothing. The start, Natalie told her to just leave. I can see that. I believe she can be besties 1 minute and vindictive and flip out the next. I figure Natalie has her own personality disorder. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say how interesting that on the phone they're so disrespectful to each other, and then they act like they're also friends. But then Mackenzie talks about most of the time how much she hates living there and how much her mom annoys her and stuff. So again, we say it all the time, like they're the dynamics. This is just one angle that we're seeing. So they both have possibly could have had a really shitty home life, and or we don't know their parents well enough. Do you see what I'm saying? Like maybe they're not as cool as we thought, or maybe they are. Maybe it's that the kids. I don't know. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I'm trying to look at it from both their perspectives, the parents, and then also Mackenzie and Dom's individually. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So he's saying he doesn't feel good literally first thing on Valentine's Day. And she says, "Hi, babe. Happy Valentine's." He says, "Happy Valentine's, babe." He says, "I hope I don't got that C-19." She says, "Well, we were walking around Kalahari without a mask. I lost my taste and sense of smell about a week ago, but like I can taste and smell some things." Dom says, "I have a bad headache." She says, "I don't think you have it. And even if you do, who cares? It's not going to be bad." He says, "And my eyes hurt." She said, "F. Are those the symptoms?" He says, 15% of people get eye pain. He says, "I don't know, for real." She says, "Weird. Let me look it up." She says, "I'm excited to see what you have planned for today, babe. My outfit's about to be so cute." Oh. He says, "Babe, I was just going to make a dinner reservation. I feel like shit and I need eye drops bad. My eyes hurt." She says, should I just not even try it? Doesn't even feel like Valentine's Day." He says, "I know it really doesn't." She says, "I didn't even wake up to a Valentine's text." Wow. I kinda believe that he's sick because, he has all these tummy issues, but I feel like what a coincidence, like, first thing at 8:06, and she's right, he didn't say happy Valentine's Day or anything. He's like, "Oh, I don't feel good." She's gonna pop off. I know, here we go. She says, "I didn't even wake up next to a Valentine's Day text." She says, "I'll bring you eye drops though." He says, "Babe, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking about that. I was more thinking about how am I gonna do anything? I feel shitty AF." She said, "Well, babe, today you're supposed to make the girl feel special. Valentine's Day is about love and making the other person feel special. It already doesn't even feel special, so who cares? I don't even want to try anymore. The fact that Carl could post Hannah and I'm never gonna post. Seeing all those Valentine's posts is making me sad." He said, "I'm sick, but okay. I took you to Kalahari too. No one else doing that shit I've seen. And I got you flowers and chocolates. Just because I don't want to be like the rest of the norms and post you today doesn't mean I didn't do way more than they did." She said, "I'm not asking you to take me somewhere expensive or buy me anything. Whatever, Dom. You don't even get it and you never will." He says, "Sad. What are you doing, babe?" He said. And she says, "So am I leaving or not?" He says, "Yes, leave." And then at 6:12, Dom says, "Thanks for the chocolate, babe. I love you." And he says, "Kenzie, I feel really bad about this morning. I was getting better. I need to do my breathing more, babe." He says, "Happy Valentine's Day, babe. I'm sorry. I'd rather argue with you all day than not see you." She says, "Saying sorry does nothing. This is one day where you need to make sure as I am as happy as I can be. Everyone knows that." He says, "I didn't know that." She says, "It seems like you had fun with Blair, Kyle, and Ashish. And how didn't you know that? You could do it last year, and you literally took down your story of me." He says, "Do what last year?" She says, "And you didn't even compliment my cute ass outfit. We did Valentine's Day last year. How did you forget this year?" He says, "Yeah, that was when I was tweaking out, babe. Babe, I thought Kalahari was our Valentine's. I asked you before we could do Valentine's a week earlier because it'd be easier to." She says, "Okay, but you still did nothing Valentine's related at Kalahari. Like you could have put some rose petals on the bed, done something romantic, but we literally did nothing like that." He says, "I don't even know where to find rose petals." She says, "Maybe a flower store. You would try if you wanted to." He says, "I was actually looking today." She says, "I get really excited for holidays and honestly just sucked." And Dom says, "Babe, I don't know. I didn't know I needed to buy rose petals for Valentine's. I didn't know that shit. I thought Kalahari was enough." She says, "Yeah, you don't. I'm giving you ideas on what you can do. Like, yes, I told you 1 million times. I'm thankful for you taking me to Kalahari. I appreciate it so much, but you could have done something romantic. If this was our Valentine's Day, then why didn't you do anything Valentine's related? Like, I literally cried on Valentine's Day. That should never happen." He says, "Well, I didn't know that I thought Kalahari and staying in the hotel would be enough." She says, "Dom, the only thing that we did was romantic is this something that I planned. It's supposed to be you planning everything." He says, "I don't know these things." She says, "I don't know why you keep saying I don't know because that's def not helping anything. I got you something cool and I don't even want to give it to you." He says, "You don't have to give me anything." She says, "Well, I already bought it. I was waiting to pick it up." He says, "Babe, I'm sorry. Next year I'll just do something romantic and we can go somewhere like Kalahari." She says, "That's still not helpful." He says, "You want me to do something next weekend? I don't feel good. I'm about to go to bed, babe. Is that okay? You can come cuddle." She says, dot, dot, dot. He says, "What, babe?" She says, "So you don't want the thing?" He says, "What? So you're just going to go to bed after I said I got you something?" Three question marks. He says, "I asked you if you could." And she says, "Like, do you not want it?" He says, "Babe, of course I want it." She says, "So that's my Valentine's Day. I just got to hang out with my friends." He says, "I feel bad accepting it though." She says, "You don't even want to come hang out one time. You def don't deserve it, but I'm gonna give it to you." He says, "I just feel bad I let you down." She says, "I'm just gonna lower my expectations a lot." Oh boy, here we go. Demanding rose petals in the hotel room is diabolical. She's so pathetic, dumb. That was the day to make her happy and every other day. You guys, this is wild. It's never enough. Never, LJ. a weed boutique and some dabs. I don't even know why they're together. I really don't. Mallory says I hate her. I would have got our muscle for Valentine's Day. That is a gift that just keeps on giving. Oh, Crystal, thank you for the Cash App, babes. Thank you. Appreciate you. But she's just plain negativity from the first babe that comes out her mouth. She's so plain and boring for a young girl. Yeah. She'll never be satisfied. Okay, she says she's gonna lower her expectations a lot. He says, well, if I don't deserve it, I don't want it. She says, my expectations, I was too high on Valentine's. No one can never do what I want. Oh, her expectations were too high on Valentine's. He says, unless that would be worse. She says, so what's the plan tonight? It's already 7:23 p.m. He says, yeah, you got to hope for the best, but expect the worst. He says, I feel like shit. What you want tonight? She says, like I say, every time you say that, if I tell you what I want, it's going to mean nothing. Like, obviously, I want to do something with you for Valentine's because you're my boyfriend. She says, Dom says, we can still chill and go something. I don't know if I can go anywhere. She says, yeah, I just ate anyways. Are we just going to lay down? He says, I have a really bad headache. That's all I've been doing. She says, I also need to talk to you about something. He says, so what's the plan? She said, in person though. Obviously, I want to give you Valentine's gift, but I don't want to just lay down. Like, I want to do something fun. Today's supposed to make me feel special. So far, it has not been that way. He says, could we do something fun next weekend? She says, so what is going on tonight? Am I coming or no? He said, yeah, you can come. She says, like, you don't even give me chocolates or anything, to be honest, today. It honestly hurt, but it's okay. Dom says, I just didn't think I had to. I was going to take you for crab legs and Boone a wood there, but I didn't feel good. Mackenzie says, I mean, you could have at least done that if you knew you were sick and weren't going to do anything. And you still said nothing about you deleting the picture you put on your story. Like, you posted me for like 4 seconds. He says, no, I got 350 views. She says, then why can't I see it anymore? He said, that's when I was freaking out. I deleted it. I'm sorry. That's annoying. Why does Dom do that though? They're both annoying as heck right now. She's lying. He bought her an outfit for Valentine's a week ago. Maybe he has plans with someone else. Something. This is just, why be with her if you're just gonna make her mad, intentionally? Like, why waste why waste his energy? He says, I deleted it, but when I was tweaking. She says, oh, I thought you were seeing that it had hella views got you mad. He said, no. She said, so if I come over, we're just going to lay down. He says, I deleted it. Was hitting my head. I don't know why. She said, my story has 500 views. He said, we can watch movies. She said, maybe you can roll a backwood before I come. He says, I have a headache though. Yeah, but I'm not going to smoke it. She said, he says, I can't, babe. My nose and head. I'll roll you one though. She said, yeah, today is the worst Valentine's Day ever. He says, okay, I'll smoke the wood. She says, I want to come, but I don't want you to be mean to me or make me cry. Are you going to be nice? He says, babe, I won't. Just don't be mean to me. She says, because I had to put on my eyelashes 40 different times today. He says, do you want me to roll you the wood? She says, because I cried them off. What is even the point if you're not going to smoke it? He says, I don't know if I can hit it though. It's still a wood. She says, you're really not trying to make this night better. He says, I am. I really just can't do much right now. She says, if you wanted to, you would try. He says, why does it matter what day I try though? Like, I don't feel good. I wouldn't expect anything from you. She said, because today is a Valentine's Day, a world holiday. I don't care. I still try as hard as I can, no matter what for you. No matter how I'm feeling, I still try. He says, I wouldn't want you if you were sick. She says, well, I do it anyways. He says, I'll still roll you the wood and we can watch movies. She says, what is the point of rolling me a wood if you're not going to smoke? And if you wanted to already, you would have. Like, you're just making me choose. Like, you're just making me choose, which makes it not special at all. And he says, what? She says, this is the worst Valentine's I've ever had. He said, why can't we just have Valentine's next week? She said, because there's no point. Like, I already got your shit and you don't even really care that much. I dressed up today for nothing. Only got compliments from my friends. Like, I want to come, but I feel like it's not going to be chill. He says, okay, babe, I'm sorry. I'm sick and I suck. She says, I want to give you your Valentine's gift, but I feel like you're just going to not even care that much. I really just feel like no one cares. I'm the only one who gives effort. And the fact that you just left me on red, he doesn't respond. And she says, do you think you can leave me on red after all you put me through today? He says, I didn't, babe. He says, my phone is on low power mode. And I was thinking of what to say. You want to just hang out tomorrow and hopefully I feel better? She says, so you don't want your Valentine's gift? He says, I do. She says, so then what? He says, you can come tomorrow. Doesn't matter. We can chill tonight. I just don't feel good. She says, do you think I feel good after today? He says, no. She says, you really need to up your game and start making me and treating me better. This is the last Valentine's Day this ever happens. She says, you're really going to get me mad again. He says, no. She says, so you won't smoke a wood? He says, that one works better. She said, what? He said, I can't, babe. My head hurts. She says, honestly, I'm just trying to go to bed. Oh, I'm tempted to go to bed. He says, you can come to go bed here if you want. She says, I'm just going to be mad. My room's just really messy, says Dom. She says, I don't want to lay down in the dark the whole time. He said, yeah, it sucks. She says, like, I want to give you your gift and smoke a wood. He says, can we just smoke dabs? I could take a dab. She said, taking a dab isn't as fun. It's just hitting it and then done. He says, I could roll you a wood. Then I hit dab. She said, what is the point? You're not going to smoke. I have a low tolerance. I can't even smoke here half a wood. He says, you always put it out. She says, you think I want to smoke alone? Like, I was already alone all day today. He says, I don't know then. We got to figure something out. He says, my eyes hurt. She said, of course, you're more worried about that. He says, yeah, I'm pretty worried about my eyes. She says, so you have nothing planned here tonight? We're not doing anything. This is just how my Valentine's is going to be. He says, babe, I told you what I planned, but I got sick. She says, you had planned. I'm asking what we're doing tonight. So we're doing nothing. You don't even have anything at home planned. Yeah, my mind just must be confused because, like, I don't know how I deserve all of this. He says, yeah, I mean, I can't really be romantic when I got snot dripping out of my nose. So we can chill and watch movies, play games or something. She says, but you can't though. You're just not trying. He says, and I can always do something for you another day. She says, I don't care about another day. I care about Valentine's. I worked really hard on this outfit for nothing. Honestly, this is the worst feeling I've ever had. So what is going on? She says, Kenzie, I'm sorry. She says, you keep saying sorry, but I guarantee you this is just going to happen again. He says, okay, fine. She says, that's all. That's what you're going to do now. He says, Kenzie, I just feel like at this point, you don't care about my emotions. She says, obviously, I care about your emotions. He says, sorry, I couldn't do anything with you on Valentine's. I'm sick. She responds with, it's just really hard to feel bad for you. But when you really effed me over super hard on a day that's supposed to be romantic, do you know how embarrassing it is to be alone on Valentine's Day when you have a boyfriend? He says, yeah, but that worst feeling ever you get, I deal with stuff like that weekly. That's why I do half the shit I do. That's why I do breathing and smoke weed at 10 a.m. I don't want to do that. She says, but there's ways you could prevent it and you're choosing not to do any of those ways. Like, you don't even let me help you. He says, how? She says, so like we're doing nothing tonight. Do you not want your gift? He says, that's all your choice now. She says, wow, thanks. It always is. I love planning Valentine's Day. She says, like, did you not listen to a word I said? Obviously, if I pick it, it's not going to be special at all. It's already not, though. Like, I guarantee you've just been laying in bed this whole time. He said, yes. She says, like, you haven't even tried to fix this or do anything special. He said, my eyes hurt. She said, like, you probably don't even have a movie picked or have the wood even started. He says, you didn't tell me. That's what you wanted. She said, all of the things that you would have done already if you cared. He says, you're being mean. She said, "Who cares? Now it's not even special anymore." He said, "Okay." She says, "Yeah, I'm definitely the mean one. Do you not remember this morning?" Question mark, question mark, question mark. He says, "Babe, that's not me. Like you said, I don't want to tweak out. I don't hit myself." She said, "Okay, but you're still not doing anything after the things I told you. You can do things to be better. Like if I tell you what to do, obviously it's not going to be fun or special for me. Like I already planned Valentine's Day, literally kill myself." He said, "What?" She says, "Like it's not just as special if I tell you what to do. Like the little things matter." He says, "Okay, babe." She says, "You could literally write me a note and I'll probably cry and be so happy. But don't even try because there's no point. Like I spent so much money on you for Valentine's Day." He says, "Okay, babe." She says, "And I want to give it to you, but I don't." He says, "Just take it back." She says, "Because now I'm going to come to your house and just get disappointed. It's not something you can take back. I've waited all day." He said, "Chocolate is enough. Then keep it or give it to someone else then." And she says, "You're really going to do that? Like you just found a way to make it worse. I really didn't even think you could." He says, "You don't want to give it to me then?" He says, "I don't want you to give me shit if you're disappointed." She says, "I've been disappointed all day. Like all I wanted was for you to plan something little and romantic for today." He says, "I just don't think it matters what day you do shit. My family was never like that. We celebrated Christmas the 24th every year." She says, "Well, I'm not like that. And I'm never going to be like that." He says, "Okay, well, I didn't know." She says, "And all I wanted was to feel loved today. Well, extra loved. Definitely did not get that." He says, "I thought I could just feel better tomorrow and do shit for you. Okay, I understand now, I think." She says, "Like I got you bath bombs, chocolate, and a surprise, and I didn't even get a Valentine's text this morning." He says, "I know, I appreciate them, babe." She says, "I think the only person who said I love you today to me was Kendra, or the only person who gave me a hug." Dom says, "My eyes are in literal pain. I can't text anymore." She says, "So are we not hanging?" He says, "Whatever you want, okay? Now I can't see." She says, "I'm guessing the wood isn't rolled, and now you're taking that out on me." He said, "So I don't know if I can watch movies." She says, "Yep, and that's my fault. Should have known you were going to do this." He said, "No, it's not. I just chose you over my vision." Okay. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What's wrong with his eyeballs? What is what's wrong with his eyeballs? He's just her plug. They could have just ordered takeout and watched movies. That's great. I hope everyone asked her, "What did Dom get you for Valentine's?" He's effing sick. Dude, is it that big of a deal? Dom, are you trying on? You guys better buy me something for Valentine's now. If only they could communicate better. I know. I didn't even know it was that big of a deal. Dom ruined this world holiday. No, I bought you stilettos. Love is not what she wants. What she really wants is weed and social media gratification. He could have a migraine. My eyes hurt once when I used too much retinol. Me too, Seely. But what something is wrong with his eye. Oh, eye migraine. Oh, yeah, dry eye is painful. Sometimes, yeah, I could see that. He could just have wrote "I love you" on a paper and she would have been just fine. No, then she would have been like, "That's not enough on a stupid piece of paper." No one said "I love you" to me. Dom, my eyes hurt. Yeah, okay, so let's continue. He says, "I chose you over my vision." He says, "Now Imma choose my vision." He says, "Call me if you want." She said, "If you think that's going to help, you're wrong. Like, you don't understand. You never will." Yeah, I'm for real shocked. He says, "I'm really not trying to freak out. I'll call you later." Okay, that was at 8:32 PM. And then at 2:06 in the morning, he says, "Are you awake still? If you wanna come over after." Oh, and then she didn't respond. And then at 10:11, he says, "If you wanna come over after Polaris, I can make you eggs." Okay, so she was being a brat, causing fights or whatever. Then he, like, falls asleep, and then he's like, "But come over, I'll make you eggs." Like, ugh, I can't. You know what I mean? I would be annoyed on her end and his end. I would be like, block. I don't think he has pink eye, guys. Not the blind leading the blind, says Ash. I have an eye problem. I can't stand Mackenzie. His eyes hurt from reading her billion and one text. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Dry eye from reading so many texts. Okay, so he says, if you want to come over after Polaris, I can make you eggs. She says, I don't have school today. He says, oh, really? Why is that? She said, it's Abe Lincoln Day or something. He says, LMAO. Yeah, President's Day. I just checked. She said, yeah. She said, I'm still bummed about yesterday. He says, yeah, but we had hella fun at Kalahari and we can work on the other stuff. That's what it's about. What's Kalahari again? Have we been over this? I think we have. I think we looked it up. What is that? Oh, what is that? Oh, it's a water park? Oh, it's a resort and convention? That's what's coming up when I Google, guys. Oh, yeah, there's one in Sandusky, Ohio. Oh, indoor water park. That sounds like fun. Oh, thank you, Mallory. Yeah, I just came back to the chat and I saw that. Thank you, babes. Thank you. And expensive? Vacancy. Okay. So he says that's what it's about. She says, I just didn't feel special yesterday. And yes, I loved Califari. It was fun, but not romantic. He said, you should have felt special there, though. She said, I did, but I'm talking about Valentine's Day. He says, I know. She says, you're not even acknowledging my feelings are hurt. He says, babe, we talked about it all day yesterday. Look, I thought Kalahari was cool. I guess it's not like at this point you're being spoiled. He says, babe. She says, what? He says, you can't just be mad at me. She says, I don't want to be mad at you, but you're really not trying to fix what you did at all. Like you seriously messed up. He says, how? I literally asked my mom and she said, you even got her flowers too. Mackenzie says, it's not what your mom thinks. I don't know why you keep saying, let's ask my mom or bringing your mom up when it's not about her. It's about me and you. He says, ask your mom then. She says, you got me flowers as an apology. He says, I think you're being unreasonable. She said, for ditching me? That was you making it up to me, not as a Valentine's gift. Stop trying to make me seem so ungrateful. You know I love the flowers. He says, babe, no, that was half and half. She says, like, you're still not trying to make things better. He says, you're being spoiled, babe. Ask anyone. I did try, babe. She says, so you keep calling me names. You really think that's helping anything? I'm not spoiled. I just know my worth. He says, I keep trying and was letting you be right. She says, my boyfriend of 2 years did not get me anything for Valentine's Day. Kalahari was fun and I loved it, but it was not romantic at all. Not on Valentine's Day. He says, relationships supposed to work things out. Kalahari was your present. I'm done with this. She says, I'm trying to work it out with you right now. He says, you're being spoiled. She said, you keep calling me names because that's how we work it out. He says, I'd ask anyone, they'd probably be like, wow, Kalahari, that's lit. She said, I just said I loved Kalahari 30 times. He said, being is a keyword. She said, it was so fun, but it was not Valentine's related. He said, you just don't go to Kalahari for no reason. That was your Valentine's present. She says, like, you could have done something Valentine's related there, but you didn't. It didn't feel like Valentine's at all. I didn't know that. I loved it and had fun. He says, like, I spent a whole band pretty much. She says, but it was not romantic. He says, just for you to be mad I didn't get you flowers on Valentine's Day when I'm sick. Hypothetical flowers. Like, I spent a band on you, had more stuff planned. She says, while you were sick, I was trying to make sure you felt better and get you things, and I got you chocolate and something else. Dom says, but I was sick. Then again, she says, but no, you were getting mad at me and being mean to me on Valentine's Day. Like, you don't need to spend money on me. You just need to make me feel special. This is ridiculous. She's like, don't spend money on me, make me feel special. But Kalahari wasn't enough. Like, you need to make me feel special by buying me and posting with me. And this is so ridiculous. What is a whole band? A band is $1,000. So he's saying he spent almost $1,000 on Kalahari. I wonder if that place will open. Should we look up right now how much it costs if we go to Kalahari right now? Let me see. I'm curious. Actually, I believe it. Oh, it's not loading. I believe he spent. I believe it. If it's a nice resort slash water park, I could see you spending that $1,000. But they stayed there, right? I believe they stayed there. Hmm. Not us going to Kalahari. The number one indoor water park. Oh yeah, it's like super serious. Mm-hmm. Oh, sea rates. Oh, you can get like a little suite, a little villa. Okay, let's continue with the text. We can look at this maybe later. Hmm. 260, 320 a night, 205, 317, 432, 449, $1,965 a night. Okay, yeah, it goes up pretty high. The Nayumba Entertainment Villas, it's 1,400 a night. 2 level standalone home with 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 2 living rooms, full kitchen, full wet bar, pool table, balconies. Okay, we get it. It's nice as hell. Okay, so she says, "You don't need to make money to spend money to make me feel special." And he says, "Babe, you were being mean." She says, "I appreciate everything you've done, and I don't know why you're acting like I haven't. I'm not being mean. I'm hurt. I've told you like 60 times before." He says, "It doesn't matter about the money. It matters about the time." She said, "No, it doesn't. Who cares about time?" He says, "I'm done." Cool. She says, "See, you're the one who is not working it out." He says, "Sorry, I spent all the money I made this month on you." She said, "All you have to do is try." He said, "No, babe, this is you. You're begging to be right." I said, "Let's work it out a million times yesterday." She says, "It's honestly disgusting how you can't admit you effed up." He says, "But you were being petty, expecting me to go be Prince Charming." She says, "But cool, keep gaslighting me." He says, "Now I'm not, because you're not." No, I'm not, because you're not. I don't know what he meant by that. He said, "Yesterday I was all on your side, but not now you're being spoiled. Like we had 2 full days together at Kalahari." He says, "I'm done with this convo, getting bored of it. Next time, I'll just give you flowers and chocolates on Valentine's Day because I know the day matters. To me, it doesn't, though. If you want to give me Christmas presents on the 24th, I don't care. But now I know you only want them on the 25th, and now you know I'm cool with getting them on the 24th. Like it's all about understanding and growing, being better together. But you want to attack my character because I'm sick. So go be spoiled. You got chocolates and flowers. You went to Kalahari. All these other girls probably just got a card." She says, "I would be happy with just spending time, just me and you, but no, I guess that's spoiled." So then you should be happy he took you to Kalahari. If you're okay with spending time with him, girl, then what are you saying? I take the water park over flowers any day. Honestly, I wasn't going to be tripping this much. Are they adults? Said 269. No. Sliding down water slides has to be romantic though. You can make that fun, especially if you have some drinks. Like that could be fun. She's seriously grossing me out. Yeah, water parks gross me out too. I haven't been for a very long time. How'd they get a hotel if underage? Yeah, good question. Also, is he an adult and she's a child he's having relations with? I think she's 16 here and I think he's 18. Oh, but you still can't get a room at 18. Wait, can you get a room at 18? I thought you had to be 21. 25? Am I tripping? Does it vary? Hmm. Don't ask me. Happy spending time with me, and then she needs chocolate roses. Cat Randall, I missed you, meow meow. Melly is the best, he says. Much love for you. We love us, Cat Randall. Hi, meow meow. At 18, yes. Oh, okay, it's 18. Really? I don't remember being able to do that. Maybe I just didn't do it. Really? 18 seems young to get a hotel room, don't you guys think? He couldn't do homecoming. He's about 20. 21? Have to sneeze. Oh, changes by state last I knew. Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't remember getting one at 18. But anyways, okay, so she says, I guess that's spoiled. He says, that doesn't make sense, but okay, babe. She says, I just wanted to do something with you on Valentine's Day. She says, because just hang out and smoke backwoods, we could have just watched movies. But I'm not going to tell you that and make it special. Why are you getting your mom in our drama? She says, like, you're 19, you can handle this yourself. There we go. We were over here trying to figure out how old he was. She just said, she's 16, he's 19. Wait. Oh, yeah, because she was 18 right after the accident, and that's in 22. So she's like, what, 17 here? 16 going on 17, probably just turned 17. Do I know how to do math? No, don't know. Oh, yeah, well, now they can ask for a credit card and your license. Chanel girl. I ended up with strep. Oh, at the park. Why pay a lot of money? Yeah, Jeremy's. They're in Ohio, Cree. Oh wow. No, Ohio. Okay, so she says, like, you're 19, you can handle yourself. She says, when you realize you effed up, hit me up. He says, we could have done those things, babe. And yeah, I gotta ask her because if not, I feel like I'm retarded. He says, but I know I'm not. She says, yeah, next time I'll just show my mom all of our conversation. Like, no, that's not what we're doing. He says, I didn't show her. I just asked her if she thinks you should be mad, but I literally took you to Kalahari. She said, you can fix it. I'll give you the chance. Oh my gosh, if you bring up Kalahari one more effing time. He says, you can fix it. I'll give you one chance. She said, I told you 35 times that I'm thankful for Kalahari. It was not Valentine's Day. It was not romantic, but it was fun. Like, please get that out of your head. I'm honestly done. What the F is wrong with you? He says, now I know that I shouldn't, in caps, do that. He says, cool. We worked it out. I won't take you to Kalahari for Valentine's Day. Like, question mark, question mark. It's that simple. She says, I'm not saying do not do that. I never said do not take me to Kalahari. He says, I still really tried hard at Kalahari. She says, I am saying it was not romantic whatsoever, like zero romance at all. If it was for Valentine's Day, you could have done something Valentine's related there, and you did not. This is why I have been saying the whole time. This is what I've been saying the whole time. He says, now, she says, I loved Kalahari. It was so fun. And I also told you this 30 times. He says, in caps, I am aware. Cool. Now I know. And she says, I am not saying don't take me to Kalahari. He says, I know. She says, I'm saying if it was for Valentine's Day, wouldn't you make it romantic? He says, I understand. She said it wasn't. He says, now I know for next time. That's simple. I heard it a million times. I'm really getting bored of this. It's the same convo repeated. She said, well, you're not understanding what I'm saying because you're saying you're never going to take me to Kalahari again is not going to help. He says, you're being spoiled though, because I tried really hard at Kalahari and you're mad because I wasn't romantic. Not again. She says, yeah, I'm spoiled because I want Valentine's Day. Some of you are freaking out, huh? I know, I'm coming over here to look. No, thank you. Melly, you're a good actress. I just am reading it like I think, like if I was reading that, that's how I would take it in. Dom's mother reaction, dude, he was going to his mom and being like, she's being psychopath. F Valentine. I will never look at Valentine's the same after this conversation. At least when they argue, she has most of his attention. Oh, yeah, Lord. Okay, she says, "Yeah, I'm so spoiled because I want Valentine's Day." He says, "Just not for Valentine's." She says, "Cool. Okay. Bye, babe." She says, "LMAO." Like, how immature are you? He says, "No, babe, you are." She says, "I told you many things you can do to fix this, and of course, you're choosing not to." He says, "You really are, babe." She says, "I don't need to fix shit." He says, "You don't." She says, "Because I got you 2 Valentine's gifts on Valentine's Day." He says, "But you're immature." She says, "And you don't even care to get your gift, or you didn't even care to get me anything or hang with me." He says, "I'm cool on the gift." She says, "Or take me out to dinner or just pretty much do anything." He says, "Babe, I tried. I was sick." She says, "No, you didn't." He says, "Cool. I'm done with this combo now." She says, "I pushed to effing hell to do shit for you when my stomach is in literal pain 24/7. I can never complain about it or use it as an excuse." He says, "Then don't." She says, "Because I care and I want to make you happy. And I'm always going to try no matter how I'm feeling. Like, when are you going to start matching my energy? Like, you never do." And he says, "When you communicate better." She says, "You act like I'm a gold digger." He says, "And be more reasonable." He says, "And act like a girlfriend." Oh. She says, like, "I would be happy chilling, just me and you watching movies." Clearly, dude, she wasn't. Like, you couldn't just be happy walking around Kalahari, like eating expensive food? Dude, I must be the most boring girl ever because that sounds like so much fun to me. I think even just going out to dinner is fun. I guess I'm boring. Oh, please get over it. This wasn't the last Valentine's Day. No, it wasn't. They still had one more before the crash. Tell her, Dom. Yeah. Okay, so she says, "But you called me spoiled." He says, and she says, "Because calling me names." He says, "Yeah, we could have done that." She said, "Helps." She says, "I'm honestly in shock that you're still not trying to fix what you did to me on Valentine's Day." He says, "Mm-hmm." She says, "Like, this is some shit I won't forget." He says, "Me too." He says, "This is gonna irk me for a grip because you can't just be grateful everything I do for you and let me do something for you next weekend. You got to throw a hissy fit. I just asked Kyle and he said I do the most and I never ask for anything." She says, "Okay, let me just post my business on Snapchat story to ask my viewers. We'll see what they have to say about it." He says, "Okay, I will too." He says, "Because I know you told Kendra. So don't act like I'm putting our business out everywhere." She says, "You really are, though, because I really haven't talked to anyone. Only Megan, because Megan's boyfriend is also being a DICK." She says, "Like, you're honestly being really rude." He says, "No, babe, you are." She says, "Like, I'm about to just go hang with my friends again. When you're ready to try and fix Valentine's Day, hit me up." He says, "I literally took you to Kalahari. Like, no one gets that. If my mom took me to Florida for Christmas, I'm not gonna get mad it's not Christmas. It's not Christmassy. I'm done though. Go chill with your friends. When you wanna be grateful, a grateful girlfriend, I'll be your boyfriend," he says. He says, "I'm turning my phone off now. My eyes hurt. When you wanna work things out like normal couple, let me know, 'cause, I'm not Superman when I'm sick." Y That was at 11:51 AM. He says, "You wanna come hit this new rig?" At 6:28 PM. Oh, so they haven't talked from 11:45 AM to how are they going through all of that before 11:45 AM? She says, so he says, "You wanna come hit this new rig at 6:28." Then he says, "Kenzie." She says, "What's up?" He says, "Are you still mad?" She says, "Yes, you haven't done anything to fix what happened." He says, "Okay, Imma text you later, babe." She said, "Do you think I'm just going to randomly forgive you?" He said, "No." She said, then why aren't you doing anything to fix this? He said, well, you don't know that yet. She said, what does that even mean? He says, I'm gonna try to figure out how to fix it. She said, when are you going to try to figure it out? He said, I don't know. I still don't think you should be mad. Good night, babe. I love you. He said, wait. He says, I don't think you should be mad. That was at 9:10 p.m. on the 15th. Then he says, good night, babe. I love you. Good morning, babe. I love you. On the 16th at 8:53. Let me know if you want to hang out today. Babe, there's no point to keep fighting. I can do Valentine's Day stuff for you this weekend. She says, when are you going to actually give me an apology? I've had a terrible last couple of days because of Valentine's Day, and you haven't even like spanned me or try to do anything to talk to me. He says, you didn't have to, though. We can just do stuff this weekend. I tried to say I'm sorry. You just said sorry isn't going to do anything. Mackenzie says, you haven't done anything or even tried to talk to me. You just tried to argue back with me. And of course, sorry isn't going to do anything if you're yelling at me 4 texts later. Like, it just feels like you're not caring at all. He says, because you're not being reasonable, Kenzie. She says, see, and then you start saying stuff like that. I'm allowed to feel about what you did to me however the F I want. And you can either respect that or you can go. He says, you could just tell me how you felt about Valentine's Day. Then I do something for you this weekend. She said, I did. I tried to tell you like 30 times and you keep being mean. He said, what? She says, I told you how I felt in the morning on Valentine's Day when I first got to your house over text messages throughout the day and nothing happened. You straight up told me you didn't even want your gift. He says, babe, I want the gift. She says, like, I was telling you how I felt and you were just getting mad. I'm trying to change a situation and make it something it's not. She emphasizes her own message. She emphasizes the other message. He says, okay, Kenzie. She says, are you going to stop trying now? Because that's how I know you're sorry. It's going to mean nothing. Because if you were sorry, you would be spamming the shit out of me and doing a lot more than what you're doing to fix it. Doesn't like it hurt your soul to hear that I've been sad AF since Valentine's Day? You haven't even tried to make me feel better. She says, Dom says, I've been sad too, babe, and I did try, but you attacked my character. Look, you can let me do something for you this weekend or stay mad. Your choice. She says, I did not attack your character. Telling you what upsets me is not attacking your character. She says, I'm allowed to tell you how I feel. And that's how you're going to talk to me after what I just said? He says, I can't tell you how I feel. She says, when did I say that? He says, what am I saying that's bad? She said, or stay mad. That's your choice, quote unquote. He says, yeah, it's your choice. You accepting the apology isn't for me. She says, no, it's not. He says, you can be mad forever. She said, it's how you're treating me from now. He said, it's for you. She said, the fact that you don't even care. Oh my gosh. He said, I don't even care? Question mark. She said, if you cared and didn't want me to be mad, you would not say that. He says, you're not understanding it, right? She says, like, you're not even trying to fix this. I told you 1 million things you can do. Like, I'm not being spoiled. I'm not being ungrateful. I deserve to have a Valentine's Day. He says, quote unquote, I took my girlfriend to Kalahari for Valentine's Day and she got mad. He says, think about that. She says, yeah, I'm done. Your apology meant literally nothing. Maybe if you listened to what I was saying, you would understand that's not it. But cool, keep telling yourself that. He says, I get that you think in retrospect, like, yeah, the little things matter, but that's pretty little. You can just be happy. I tried and let me try again this weekend. That's what a normal couple would do instead of keeping this over my head like a score. Ooh. She says, I'm not keeping scores. I know what I deserve and how I should be treated. I'm not going to let you treat me differently. Like when I told Megan you didn't get me a Valentine's gift, she was effing shocked. Like, wow, Dom, 2 years? He says, that's not it. She says, we could have just watched a movie together and smoked a backwood, but you could invite me over. In fact, I don't even think you said happy Valentine's Day to me one time. He did. Remember, he said it one time. I think even maybe twice. He says, did you tell Megan I spent almost a band at Kalahari? Did you tell her that was the gift? She says, Kalahari was not Valentine's related, in caps. He says, and that I got you chocolates days before too. She says, at all. The flowers and chocolates were to make it up to me after you were being mean. He says, that was my intention, babe. She said, if that was your intention, why didn't you say happy Valentine's Day to me? Why didn't you do anything Valentine's related? I don't even think we had alone time really there. He said, then why can't you just let me try again this weekend, but you're making it harder? Babe, I don't know. Those things are things we can work on. She said, like, if it was Valentine's related, you could have done something Valentine's related. Like, there maybe, but put some flowers on the bed or like some chocolates and some candles. But like, no, and being anywhere near Blair is not Valentine's related. He says, okay, babe. She says, please, like, start trying to fix this because I can't stand to be sad any longer. He says, I tried a couple times. You got to wait till this weekend since you got to win. She says, I don't know what I'm winning. He says, you're keeping score, babe. She says, Dom, I'm not keeping score. I never have. I don't know why you always say that. Like, I literally, literally don't put this on me. He says, you're making this way harder than it needs to be. She says, Dom, stop arguing with me then. Like, I'm allowed to be hurt. You did something pretty effed up. He says, babe, you're arguing with me. I told you. You could just let it go for now. I'll give you Valentine's Day this weekend, or you can be mad till then. Is this insane? Dude, they're almost on a whole 48 hours talking about Valentine's Day, like fighting over it. She says someone who's okay with celebrating her birthday early then gets mad she doesn't get anything the exact day. Someone should send her a menu from the place every Valentine's Day year. She needs to stop, dude. It's President's wait. It's President's Day. You got me nothing. Stop it, LJ. Oh my gosh. Oh, it feels like it's video, dude. Pure madness. Okay, let's see. She says, why do you keep saying or you can be mad till then? Please stop that. It's rude AF. She says, like, I already told you that too. He says, like, babe, I tried my best. See, you're the one trying to argue. She says, but babe, you were mean to me on Valentine's Day. He emphasizes his message. She said, and I'm not. You're just being rude on purpose. He says, no, babe, I'm not. She says, yeah, and I already told you that told you that saying that or saying you can be mad till then is rude. He said, I wasn't trying to go. He says, babe, I was sick and I'm bipolar. Oh, geez. You guys. Oh my gosh. Here we go. This is the worst juice deal ever. Dom, I got my President's Day outfit. It's QAF. Dude, if I post a pic and you guys don't tell me you like my pic, my outfit, and my selfie too, I'm gonna be so mad. Can you imagine the judge having to read through these? I think that the judge should have hired me to read these up there, huh? Here we go with the Bible. I know. Okay, so he says, babe, I was sick. Okay, serious. Because remember, someone's gonna come for me. He said, babe, I was sick and I'm bipolar. She said, you didn't even invite me over once on Valentine's Day and you hung out with your homies. Like, I'm just hurt. He says, babe, I know, but what's text arguing gonna do? Like I said, I would do something for you this weekend. He says, like, you can just be happy. I tried. Let me try again. Like, if my mom got me the wrong boots for Christmas, I'm not gonna stay mad at her till I have the right ones in my hands. That's petty. I'll just let her try again. He says, I still don't have boots. I don't care. Mackenzie says, I'm not mad at all. I'm just really sad. He says, what if I got you meatloaf for your birthday? No cake at all. You gonna be mad at me for a week for that? Like, I tried so hard on that meatloaf type shit. Like, I simply didn't know, babe. People do stuff differently. Not the meatloaf. Is this for real? Like, I swear, you guys, this is what was in the evidence. Like, I swear. Meatloaf. Not the meatloaf. Okay, so he says, me personally, I don't care about Valentine's Day. She says, of course you don't. He says, but like you didn't know that. Now you do. He's like, so don't expect anything from me next year. He says, why can't Mackenzie says, why can't you care about anything that I really care about? Like you knew I was excited. Dom says, see, you keep trying to argue. She says, no, I'm not. He says, I don't know. I'm different. I don't know. Different people are different. She says, I'm telling you how I feel. He says, no, you're questioning how I feel. She says, but like you're telling me that you don't care about Valentine's Day is mean as F because you know I care about it a lot. He says, no. He says, no, it's not, babe. I sit there and watch basketball and play basketball. I love basketball. I breed basketball. You get mad at me for watching the game. You say you hate basketball. I don't care. She says, I haven't got mad at you for that in so long. He says, I go watch you outside. But yes, you hate basketball. I don't care. I don't care for Valentine's Day. She says, I don't hate basketball. He said, football also. I'll be on the couch having a good time watching the Browns. And you're just like, can we go to your room? Can we go to your room? She said, thank you for gaslighting. He says, you're welcome. She says, like, yes, put the situation on me. He says, yes, babe, I am. Did you forget I was going through insane stomach pains that week? She says, like, you're so disrespectful. See, if you really cared, you would not have done this. He says, no, babe, I'm not talking about your stomach pains. If you really cared, you'd have more patience with me, he said. All of this is just making me realize you're being selfish. Like, for real, though, I tried, babe. I'm sorry I don't know how to love you right, but can you show me? It's as simple as that. Like, I can try this weekend and let's say my surprise is terrible. Let's say you even cry. Well, I can try again next week. Like, you can't get mad at me for not knowing. You gonna hold that over my head? You kind of get what I'm saying, though? I get what he's saying. I kind of agree with them. She says, I'll show you. I'm not being selfish though. He says, do you understand where I'm coming from now, babe? Also, it's your choice to be mad/sad. And I'm not being a DICK. And I'm going to explain that. She says, you're making it worse though by not trying and understanding. He says, babe, I have been trying. I just totally don't understand. Well, I do, but I don't. And you being mad is just making yourself live in the past. He says, not even. You're just dragging out the present. If you would accept your emotions, then you wouldn't have to deal with them. She says, no, Dom, don't even get started on that. He says, babe, that's all I'm saying. Is your waiting time being mad? She says, you need to try differently and I will tell you, but then it's not going to be as special. He says, I love you. She says, I love you too, babe. He says, we shouldn't be wasting time when we can be together. She said, yeah, but you need to try to be nice. He says, will do. She says, the fact that you apologized and then said you're going to try and then you don't text me all day says it all. He says, what does that say? And that was barely 4 hours ago. Actually, not even. He said, now she's mad because he's not texting her. She says, because if you cared and wanted to fix it, you would have invited me over by now. Why does it matter if it was 4 hours? You haven't texted me in 4 hours after you just said you were going to fix it. And you know I've been depressed as F and I've been sleeping all day. Honestly, I'm just going to go hang out with someone that actually wants to talk and hang out with me. Your effort level is 0. Up that number before it's too late. He said, what's going to happen when it's too late, babe? She says, you're dumb if you don't know. And texting other people and telling them our business isn't going to help the situation. Like, honestly, though. He says, what are you saying? And who? She says, I'm saying you better up your effort levels or I'm seriously done. He says, you're going to break up with me? And if Kristen, she says, and if Kristen is hitting me up on, didn't you go to Kalahari? Maybe we are spreading our business to the wrong people because I don't really want to have to beat Kristen's ass. Dom says, I had to ask Kyle. Mackenzie says, and your mom and Megan and probably some other people I don't know about. He said, no, that's it. She said, so tell me how many people know our business? How many people did you make me seem spoiled as F to? He says, why are you trying to argue about this? No, Kenzie, I wasn't trying to do that. She said, then what are you trying to do? Listen to everyone but me? He said, no, I needed some outside input. She said, like you straight up just been letting me be depressed and sleep in my bed all day. He says, babe, I've been depressed for days too. She said, yeah, you could have done that, but you want to act different to people. different people. She says, "How long have you been depressed? When you're literally the one causing all of this?" He says, "Babe, I'm not trying to." She says, "Babe, well, you're still not doing shit to make this better. After I told you you better start trying like many times." He says, "Babe, I thought we understood each other earlier." She says, "Oh yeah, we were cool earlier until you didn't text me all day long, until Crystal's telling me what I did for Valentine's Day." He says, "Okay." Wow. Just think if Dom moved on with another girl, Shirilla would make her life miserable. Oh, she probably would have gone all Dexter on someone. Yvonne says, "One year my son got me Chinese food. He gave his then girlfriend to she needs to give it up, BPD. Dude, yes. He doesn't give an F about holidays and she gives too many. Mallory is I hate her so effing much. I want that meatloaf now. McCarran. How does he not just tell her to F off, dude? This is too much. He says, "Okay." She says, "Then you just continue not to try at all? Like, are you for real?" He says, "Babe, what am I supposed to say?" She said, "Of course you don't know what to say. You're honestly just proving my point." He says, "Babe, I shouldn't have been saying anything, but I just honestly needed advice." He says, "I wasn't trying to dog you to other people." She says, "Babe, you're just not trying to talk to me or hang with me." He says, "Babe, I wanted to ask you to come hang, but I didn't know if you'd get mad at me when you would come. Of course I want to hang. I've been so sad without hanging with you, but I don't want to hang and be fighting and make it worse." Then she says, "Babe, you could have been texting me. I was mad because you haven't texted me one time today." He said, "Babe, I'm sorry I didn't text you, but when you texted me, I responded in a heartbeat." She said, "But you were still being mean. I've been waiting for you to ask me to hang out and you haven't texted me all day." And then she said, "Kristen unadded me." Dom said, "Good." Dom says, "Babe, I don't want to be mean." She says, Mackenzie said, "Why did she unadd me?" Dom says, "Because I told her to." Well, I told Kyle. Mackenzie said, "Why?" Dom said, "Because it was making us fight more." She said, "Bruh." He said, "What?" "She can just add you back if you want." Mackenzie said, "That's not the point. You made it a thing." Dom says, "I don't have her on Snap either." She said, "Okay, bet." She says, "I'm about to go sledding." He says, "Yeah, I've been and added her." "That's dope. Where are you going sledding?" She says, "Behind the hospital. You can come if you want." He said, "I still feel stuffy and achy." "Who you going with?" She says, "Megan Haley." He said, "For sure." She says, "You want to come maybe with Kyle?" He says, "I don't feel that good to be in the cold." She says, "It will be fun." He says, "I still don't feel that good." Oh my gosh. Like, does she not get it? He says, "I'm going to go get ginger root tea. You want to hang out after?" She says, "Where are you going to get that?" He says, "Probably Giant Eagle." He says, "If they have ginger root." She says, "Oh, I'm about to go to sledding." He says, "Okay, have fun, babe." He says, "How is sledding at 8 p.m.?" She says, "We home, about to eat." He said, "Nice." He said, "I didn't get ginger root." She said, "Why?" He said, "It just wasn't worth it." She said, "How? Like the price, LMAO?" He said, "No, just leaving the house." She said, "LMAO, true. I'm scared to drive right now." He said, "Yeah, too snowy and cold. Too much of a hassle." She said, "I had fun sledding though." He said, "That's what's up." She said, "I'm about to go drop them off." He says, "What are you doing after?" She says, "Nothing, probably." She says, "I didn't even pick out outfit." He says, "Do you want to come over? I was planning on going to bed in a sec if not." She says, "Yeah, sure. After I drop them off, I'll come." He says, "Yay." He says, "We can cuddle, LOL." She says, "Do you want your gift tonight?" He says, "If you want to, or you can give it to me this weekend." She says, "I don't want it to go bad." He says, "Oh, then bring it." He says, "I didn't know it could go bad." She said, "Oh, LOL." He said, "Yeet." She says, "Are you sure you want it tonight? Or should we just do it another day when you have more time? I'm just going to give you tomorrow when you have more time to look at it." She's so annoying. And then she says the next day at 1:38 p.m., "I'm salty." He says, "Why is that, babe?" She said, "Because I got yelled at for trying to get a drink. Like the machine ate my dollar. And Miss Heidi forced me to walk to class when I was literally trying to get a drink." He says, "Dry?" She says, taking too long to answer. He says, babe, it was 4 minutes. Wow. If he doesn't answer in 4 minutes, she's freaking out. Yeet. I don't know why they use that word. I don't like it. She doesn't care if he's sick. She needs him to be out in the snow with her. Dude, Kenzie, go with the flow. He said, yay. Yeet. I cannot. He said, babe, it was 4 minutes. He says, also, I usually video the machine when I get shit from there. She said, how can you just not let someone get a drink? What are you doing today? He says, when you a butch. On the way to pick up. She says, what? Signal. When are you going to be home? Dom? He says, like 20 minutes. She says, can you just get me? He says, babe, I didn't see this. She says, I'm coming over. He says, okay. She says, oh, Lord. Okay, so she says, I'm coming over. He says, okay, that was 3:53 p.m. Then at 4:10, so like 17 minutes later, she says, why would you invite me over if your friends are here? He said, you wanted to come over. She says, I thought they were leaving. Like I thought they were staying at Trevor's. He said, no, babe, I'm sorry. She said, like, I'm just standing. Question mark, question mark. Like if I knew I would just be on my phone, I wouldn't have came and I def wouldn't have brought your surprise. He said, what should I do? She said, I might just go home. He says, you want food? I'm about to take them home right after. She said, I don't even want food. I don't want to wait. She said, like, I am bored. I don't know why you invited me over. He said, I thought you were new. I thought you knew you'd be with them. She said, what? He said, I thought you knew you'd be with them. She said, how would I know? She says, you were literally at Trevor's. I didn't think you would take them back with you. He says, we just pulled up for the dab. She said, why? You couldn't just take a dab there? I want to take a dab. Question mark, question mark. Why are you taking so long? Okay, she says. He says, had to drive them both home. Wait, so she says, okay, at 5:25 p.m. And then at 3:40 in the morning, he says, had to drive them both home. She sends a screenshot. She says, my stomach literally feels so weird. She says, I'm so uncomfortable right now. Now my mom won't tell me what office doctors I went to so that I can call them. Wait, so that was at 6:59 a.m. And then it jumps to 7:27. He says, maybe then don't take the pick pick. I don't think it's supposed to be better shortly, probably over time. I don't know what he means by that. She says, where are you at 9 p.m.? She says, I think I'm gonna leave. She says, okay. She says, as much as I don't want to leave, I'm going because if you cared, you would. If you wanted to, you would. So yeah, I'm going home because I have to leave at 10 anyways. So you're probably going to eat for another hour. He says, okay, babe. She says, if you told me you were in pain, no matter what the F it was, I would be with you right by your side, ready to lay with you and do whatever you need. I guess you can't match that though. He said, babe, if your mom was making crab legs and you chose to be with me in pain, I'd kick you the F out and tell you to enjoy your crab legs. I wouldn't expect you to do that extra shit. But after those crab legs, I would appreciate it if you were by my side. She says, do you think I wanted to leave? Why would I want to leave to come back to my house that I effing hate? Then I thought I'm probably just going to be laying on my phone in pain alone at home also. He says, so why didn't you stay here? She says, because you didn't want to lay with me. And you told me you never asked me to be there for you when you're sick. He says, you could have just laid with me in the living room. She says, like, I feel like I do so much like personal shit for nothing. He says, Ashish wasn't even here for long. She says, why would I want to be in the living room when Ashish is loud as F? The TV is loud as F. The light is bright as F. He says, I turned it down. Okay. She says, and I will be alone on the couch. He says, well, I don't want to be in the dark ass and miss dinner because that's what happened yesterday. She says, that's not going to change anything. Like I wanted to eat, but these uncomfortable pains are not letting me. Okay, cool. She says, okay, babe. He says, she says, you give up way too fast. Like, honestly, I feel like you just don't even care enough to give effort to me anymore. Like, I know you care about me. You just don't care about giving effort or the little corny things, but that's all that matters to me. He says, let me sit and think on it because I do. It's just been a lot. Like, you gotta understand, I don't wanna lay down at 7 though. I know you don't either, but your stomach hurts. The stomach pain, she says, the stomach pain is making me not okay, and the doctors aren't even trying to fix it. Everyone acts like I just wanna curl up in a ball with a heating pad all day. Dom says, are there better doctors that you can see? She says, no doctor is going to be able to help. I've taken every test in the book. No one cares about my pain. I don't even think anyone believes it. He says, yeah, there has to be something we can do. She said, there's not. He said, at this point, I wish it was just cannabinoid because then the solution's simple as that. She says, don't we all? He says, is there anything else you can do to give you your period? Because that has to be the main thing. She says, probably not. I'm honestly ready to give up. I feel like shit every day of my life. He says, how much have you searched through Google? She says, not at all. He says, let's do that tomorrow. Other people out there have similar problems. She said, I doubt it. He said, where does it hurt? You should also get me. She says, it's abdominal pain. He says, yeah, but like, what specific organ? Oh, and she sends a picture of like her stomach, abdomen. He says, okay. He says, I still can't figure out where that is. I'm gonna figure it out tomorrow. My eyes hurt. He says, good night, babe. I love you. She says, love you too. Oh, geez. Reese says, I hate to say this, but my little sister was exactly like this when she was 13, 18. She needed immediate control and what she wanted right then and then. She became a gym rat and changed. Oh, it's anxiety. Shanta says she hasn't hit puberty. It's hunger pains. Stop. She needs attention. Okay. He says, yeah, I'm concerned about his eyes. He says, at 6:21 a.m. the next day. He says, what are you doing up, babe? He says, you get my Angelo text? He sends a screenshot. She says, I use frequencies already. She sends a TikTok. She sends 4 TikToks. He says, she cooked that shit ass. She says, I know it looked bad at the end. She said, but the steak looks ass. He said, LOL. She said, we should go on vacay on spring break. He says, bet. When's that? She says, April 1st. She says, my mom can come too. No, Mackenzie. Dom doesn't want to go on spring break with your mom. Oh my gosh. She says, or we can all go. He says, bet. Oh, I guess he does. She says, and also party in Amherst. She said, and he puts an emoji and she says, I know, right? I don't know if I'm fully down because it's far, but Megan and Nat want me to come. He says, whose party is it? Amherst is so gross though, he says. Mackenzie says, I don't know whose party, just a random's. Dom says, for sure. She says, what are you doing today? He says, about to go smoke with B and Jared. She said, oh, he says, I'll be back by 4. Is that okay? She says, sure. Scoop. Oh, she says, sure. And then at 4:19, she said, scoop. She said, okay, or don't answer. He said, okay, I dropped Kyle off. I'll scoop right now. He says, here. She says, okay. Then at midnight, well, almost 1 in the morning, she says, you good? He says, nah. Oh, wait, was that the next day? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. She says, okay, at 4:24 p.m. And then at 12:48 p.m. That's midnight. She says, you good? He says, nah. She says, what you want me to do, baby? He says, nothing. She says, oh, just let me know when you want to make food. Oh, so this might be noon in the daytime. My bad. He says, I don't know if I feel like making it. She said, oh, well, like I kind of need to eat for my diet. He says, ask my mom to make it. My butt hurts and I'm mad. He says, my BUT. What? I don't know if that's a typo. And he says, and I'm mad. Oh, here we go. She says, I'm sorry, babe. What if she makes it with sausage in it? He says, what? He sends a screenshot of something. She says, I don't think you have that. He sends screenshot. He's Googling something. She says, how would you have gotten that though? Come out here. It's just me. He says, no. She says, babe. She says, please hang out with me today. I have to go to that birthday party and leave around 5 so I can get ready. He says, babe, my butt really hurt. Oh, it wasn't a typo. Um, what? Okay, I thought like, okay, guys, maybe it's my eyes. My eyes hurt. Um, not the butt hurting. And now people are gonna be like, Melly is so mean. She laughed when his butt hurt. Does he have hemorrhoids? Don't get butt hurt. He's always Googling his symptoms. That's I've learned. That's like the number one thing I don't do because I just go down a rabbit hole. Then I get paranoid and then I'm in the ER and I'm telling them like what to look for and they're like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" He says, "Babe, my butt really hurt." She says, "Babe, I'm just laying on the couch. Do you want me to come in?" He says, "I don't know. I'm kind of mad and want to do Wim Hof." She said, "Well, when you're out of the shower, could you roll those 3 joints for Bessie and a little wood for me for her party? Do you want to just roll that stuff so I can go home and you can calm down?" She says, "Okay?" Question mark. He says, "What, babe?" She says, "You said you would be quick." He said, "I said I'd try. Do you not have time?" She says, "Well, I told you I want to leave at like 5 so I can get ready, and I'm just sitting here home alone." He said, "Leave now, get ready, and I'll roll joints. I'm gonna hit you on Signal." She said, "How long are you gonna be there, babe? Because your mom isn't here." She says, "I'm about to dip." He says, "I know, babe. I don't know, babe. Is that okay?" She said, "As long as you have that stuff for me in time." He says, "Okay, babe." And at 4 p.m., she says, "Answer right now. This isn't a joke." She says, "I will seriously be mad. Answer right now." Bruh, if you don't effing answer, we're literally going to have issues. She says, "Are you stupid? You're about to mess shit up again. You better answer right now." He says, "What?" He says, "What is going on?" She says, "Call me right now." He says, "Why are you tweaking?" She says, "Right now. If you don't call me, I STG." He said, "Scrambled or sunny side up?" What? She says, "I'm mad AF." He says, "Why, babe?" She says, "I'm going to be late AF. Siri just took me the wrong way." Ugh, sorry, my Siri just went off, dude. He says, "How, babe? Just try and get there. Text me when you're there." She says, "I'm for real so mad and my phone's about to die." He says, "I'm sorry, babe." She said, "I'm here, but I don't know anyone." He said, "Just start talking to people. They will love you, babe." She said, "It's awkward. I'm kind of just alone here alone, LMAO, but it's lit." She said, "A lot of girls." He said, "That's what's up." She said, "I don't know what to even do." He said, "Hey, if you don't smoke that wood, I'm more than happy to come smoke it." She says, "We already smoked some." He says, "I don't know, maybe make new friends or off the wood." She said, "I don't know, I'm awkward, babe." He said, "Babe, they're probably awkward too." She says, I don't know. I wish I came with a friend. I did a hookah. I did hookah, LMAO." He says, "LMAO." He says, "Do you want me and Blair to come? We'll just say, bruh, hella." She said, "No." He says, "I'm kidding." She said, "I'm low key bored. I don't know what to do, LMAO. I for real don't know anybody." He says, "You're just going to have to meet people." She says, "I don't know. Everyone just looking around or in a group." He says, "If you see someone else who look awkward or doing what you're doing, go talk to them." She says, "I don't know what to say." He says, "Just be like, 'Hey, I'm Kenzie. What's your name?'" She said, "I don't know. I'm anxious." He says, "You're cute. You should have brought Megan because she would have just acted RETARDE." Then she sends a picture of herself. She's wearing pigtails. Then loves the image. He says, "Cutie." She says, "I'm literally just trying to dip." He says, "Do you want me to pick you up? I'm tired, but I can come." She said, "No, my mom's close-ish. I don't know. I feel weird." He says, "Just go breathe and sing a song you like in your car." She says, "I don't have my car." He says, "You probably feel weird from not talking or something. It happens to me." He says, "I mean, on the way home." She says, "I don't know. Maybe. I'm talking to this one girl, but I don't know." He says, "So how was it shitty?" She says, "It's not. I'm just feeling weird." He says, "I feel weird too. I feel weird and tired. She says, "You'll probably feel my vibes. I feel weird AF." He says, "Give me them vibes." He says, "You get picked up yet?" She says, "Bessie has no money. She want to buy another, but I feel bad for her. No one up. And she told me she's bummed out, so I want to give her one or something." Babe, and I kind of want to hang. He says, "Just give her a little joint. There's two little ones. Give her one." And she says, "Okay, bet." He says, "Or one big one. I don't care." She says, "I already gave her a small one before I saw this." He said, "Was she happy about it?" "What are you doing now, babe?" It's 9:35 p.m. She says, "On the way home." He says, "Nice." He says, "You can come over if you want. I'm just watching basketball by myself." She said, "If it's not too late, of course I'll come." He said, "Of course." And then she sends an audio message and he sends an audio message. He says, "I knew it was going to be that." She sends an emoji. "I just got home, babe. I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm really tired." He says, "Aw, I'm really tired too." He said, "So that's okay." She said, "We can FaceTime for a little bit." She says, "I love you, babe." He says, "I have a wood and you're not here." What? He says, "I love you too, babe." She says, "Can you save it for tomorrow? I want to smoke with you tomorrow." She says, "Babe." She sends an audio message. Then he sends an audio message back. He says, "It's already part smoked." He said, "I'm about to go to bed. Good night, babe. Love you." And then at 8:42, she says, "Good morning, babe. Love you. I think my period could possibly be coming soon." He says, "Yay. Good morning, babe. Love you." She said, "I had such bad cramps all night." He says, "Just keep eating." She says, "I'm just laying down relaxing." He said, "You're not allowed to." She said, "Why, babe? Also, look at the TikTok. I sent you something funny. It's my sister's birthday today," she says. And Dom says, "What are you doing?" Mackenzie says, "Just waiting for my little sister to get up for someone built an igloo on the lake. Like I'm on the frozen ice." He says, "Wild." He says, "Be careful. You might have to come over and feed Jim." She says, "Why?" He says, "Because he keeps bothering me for food." She says, "Babe, I'll come feed him soon." He says, "You're fine, babe. My mom probably will." He says, "I'm about to shower and stuff." She says, "I'm going to come over after to do shit with my sister because I don't think you want to come to that." He said, "When is that going to be?" She said, "She's still sleeping." "I don't know." Dom says, "I'm so salty. My mom F's up a stain on my hoodie. So then I go to the stain and do what she says. I only let that shit soak for like 10 minutes, then wash it. Then she does the same exact thing when I told her I would do it. And of course, it's not going to help the stain. So I pull it out the washer. Then it gets water damage." Mackenzie says, "OMG, are you talking about the one she washed yesterday?" Dom sends a screen shot. He says, "She doesn't answer my question about money. Like she never does. Then ruins my jacket." Mackenzie says, "Yeah, what the hell? Send me a pic of the jacket. Do you want to come to dinner with us?" He says, "When?" He says, "I don't know. That's kind of your family thing." She said, "Yeah, you could, but obviously I come to your family stuff." He says, "Maybe. If it's your birthday, you know I'd be there." She says, "I know, babe. Are you sure you don't want to come? Because I want to hang with you." She says, "I don't know yet when she just woke up." He said, "Okay, let me know." He says, "I'm gonna go drink some tea." She says, "I drink tea today. What kind?" He says, "What do you mean?" She said, "Drink." "What kind are you drinking?" He says, "Apple something, probably." She said, "So are you coming, right?" He said, "Coming where? To dinner?" She said, "Yeah, but it's gonna be early." He said, "What time?" She said, "Told you, I'm not sure yet, babe." He says, "Okay, well, let me know, babe. I still don't feel my best." She said, "Oh, well, we're going out to eat in 5." She said, "You can come if you want." He said, "In 5 minutes?" He said, "I'm sad, babe." She said, "Why, babe?" He said, "I'm having a bad day." He says, "I don't know. I feel bad about freaking out." She says, "Why, babe? I want to be with you." He says, "On my mom." She said, "You can't help it, babe." He says, "I need to." She says, "I know, babe. We're going to figure this out and help you feel better." He says, "I feel bad about breaking the chair." Wow. Oh, Albert, my love. I was reading. I just saw your super. I missed you, Albert. Thank you, love. He's in here showing me love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Sarah G. Albert, I've missed you. He still got beef with Jim. I know, huh? Poor Jim. The cat. Stay focused. Thank you, Albert. Appreciate you. I was just reading him and Toph get into a fight, and then I saw LJ say meatloaf. I love Melly's laugh. Melly hasn't oh yeah, I'm dehydrated. I miss you more. Oh, Albert. Come back to me, Albert. He says, okay, so he got mad at his mom about his mom ruining the jacket in the washer. And then when he was mad at his mom, it sounds like he broke a chair. And now he's feeling like guilty about it, which is kind of violent. He says, Mackenzie says, it's okay, babe. It was an old chair. She said, your mom got new ones for a reason. He says, I love you, babe. She says, I want to kiss you all over. She sends like a little emoji thing. And she says, OMG, Sheen is here with a girl at Fridays while I'm here waiting. She says, with family. WTF. And Dom says, that's Olivia. Mackenzie says, LOL, how do you know her? Dom says, from what I heard, she's cool. I don't know her at all. She says, oh. Dom says, well, I've seen her at school before, but never talked to her. Mackenzie says, LOL. Kyle sent me a video, LMAO. He said, what did he send? A video of him and Baker. And Dom said, fried? Mackenzie said, LOL. She says, what are you doing? Want to play a game with me and my family when we're back? He says, maybe. What are y'all doing? She says, a game. He says, LOL, what's the game? He says, dude, my stomach hurts, but I can't shit. She says, take a laxative. He says, hell nah. Do you want to play apples to apples at 5? She says. He says, maybe. She says, you sure? It will be fun. He says, I'll let you know. He says, I don't want to be weird. She said, it's fun. He says, I think I've played before. She says, we're playing now. And you didn't text me all day. He says, what do you mean, babe? We were texting earlier. He says, I'm chilling, learning about crypto. She said, at 3. He says, I knew I should have texted you. She said, yeah, for real. He said, well, I'm sorry, babe. I was waiting for you to text me. She says, I have to do this annoying shit for cause now. She says, what are you doing? He said, I was learning about crypto for a while. Now I'm bored, about to eat dinner. He says, I'm going to invest soon. She says, what are you eating and what even is that? He says, Bitcoin and shit and steaks. She says, sounds good. And oh, so it's complicated to get a Bitcoin. He says, no, not really, just learning about it. He says, I'm not going to invest in Bitcoin right now. She says, do you need a credit card? He says, I need a bank account. She says, yeah, for real. I don't know what to wear to school tomorrow, babe. He says, oh, that was at 10:50 p.m. And then he says, sorry, babe, I fell asleep. The next day, she says, good morning, baby. He says, I love you so much, babe. She says, love you too, babe. Can I stop over and grab some bud before I go home, babe? He says, look up Zuppo. She said, oh, God, okay. He said, it's a colon cleanse. Will help with your stomach, prob a little. She said, do I shit hella? I don't want that. He says, probably. He says, it's probably good for you. She said, I don't know, maybe. He says, well, it should be. She said, I don't know. He said, it was problems on the rise, problem all the shitty food we eat in America, and that humans have pounds of toxic shit in the body. Literal shit. So I'll get that out probably. She says, buy it. We'll see. He says, you buy it. She says, 5 to 8, I have facial and a massage again. She says, what are you doing right now? He says, chilling with Blair, about to get Chick-fil-A. She says, want to hang? He says, I didn't know we were going to hang. I'm already chilling with Blair. She says, okay, hang with him. He says, you want to chill after I get back from Chick-fil-A? She says, if you want, when's that going to be? He says, hold up. She says, I can just hang with Megan or Haley. He says, yeah, bet. He says, Nico threw up everywhere. My bad. She says, bruh. She says, where, babe? Is he okay? He says, on the kitchen floor. Yeah, he's fine. She said, is your mom flipping out? Haley want to hang with me. So what's up? He says, sorry, did you go hang with her? She says, yeah. He says, bet. I'm fried AF. I took a perk. Okay, so he's just popping them perks for fun. Oh my gosh. I can see how I'm mistaken. Yeah, BPD. Quit taking them perks. Yeah. No, I like Chick-fil-A. Okay. He said, I'm fried AF. I took a perk. She says, OMG. Why again? He says, because my shit's still been hurting and it was only a 5. She says, I'm at the massage. He said, that's what's up. He said, what are you doing now, babe? She says, I'm about I'm done about to leave. What are you doing, babe? He says, just chilling, waiting for dinner. She says, what's for dinner? Want to hang? And I want Starbucks. He says, yeah. Chicken and potatoes. She says, oh, yeah, I'm low key hungry. And can I come now, babe? He says, hey, babe. Oh, so that was at 7:29. And then the next day he says, hey, babe, how was Polaris? She said, what are you doing today, babes? He said, I don't know. He says, you want to look at furniture? She says, want to hang? She says, yes. He says, yes, baby. She said, Big Lots has cheap furniture. He says, I know. She says, let's go there. He says, okay, we'll go a couple places probably. And then the next morning, she says, good morning, babe. He says, good morning, babe. He says, love you. She says, love you too. She says, how did you sleep? He says, not bad. She says, same. She says, babe, answer Snap. Okay. And then it goes to the next day. She says, morning, my little babe. He says, good morning. Love you, babe. She says, on the way to Polaris. Pulp line was long AF. He said, nice. I just got up. I don't know what to do. Probably clean my room. He says, but can you check your Cash App and see who returned money? She says, yes. He said, bet. She sends a screenshot of the Cash App. She says, babe. He says, what, babe? She says, I'm stopping to get some bud before school. He says, yeah, you told me. She said, okay, good. She says, my mom won't help me with my teacher. He says, go lock the door. She says, babe, I can on the way to school. She says, I'm pissed. He says, why is that? She says, my effing English teacher is annoying. She won't let me work with Kendra. She says, you're going to be home when I'm out of school? He says, probably. She says, okay, I get out at 2:20, so can I just come over? She says, babe, yes or no? Then it jumps to the next day. She says, good morning, babes. He says, good morning, babe. How is school? She says, going good. We just played computer games. Now I'm about to paint my nails. He says, lit. He says, I'm a link with my mom and B today. He says, B being solid. Mackenzie says, is he okay? Dom says, yeah. She says, if you go next door, grab 3 joints and put them in a bag for me. Dom said, feds want him to be an informant. Mackenzie said, what's going on with him? Dom said, okay. She said, hell no. Is he in jail right now? Dom says, if he does, we got people for him to rat on. No, they let him out. Mackenzie says, bruh, that's for real wild. She says, I got to go to class, babe. He said, right? It's because they want him to snitch. He says, okay, love you, babe. She said, it's effed up. I love you. Then she said, read what I question. And then he says, he questioned her message. He says, where's my Puffco? She says, I don't know, probably out in the living room. He says, I looked, I can't find it anywhere. She said, if you can't find it by the time I'm off school, I'll stop and look when I get the pre-rolls. He says, okay. She says, I'm anxious for my nail appointment. He says, why? LOL. She says, because I don't know what I'm going to get, babe. He said, get bullets. She said, babe. He said, what? She said, I can't get that, baby. He said, LOL. She said, babe, did you put 3 in a bag already? He says, no, they're on the kitchen table though. She says, and can you roll one more joint? Okay, bet. Or one blunt. She said, just one more. She's asking if it can be a blunt. Dom said, what do I got to? She says, before 2:20. He says, I'm playing 2K though. He says, and I don't got blunts. She says, I'll tell her you don't have blunt. Can you just roll another joint? So there's 4. Dom, he says, yeah. She says, before 2:20. He says, sure, after this 2K game. She said, it needs to be before 2:20. He says, babe, why couldn't you tell me this earlier? She says, babe, he says, I don't know where my chips are. Mackenzie said, she just asked. Dom says, actually, I have one on the table. She said, bet. She said, babe, what bud do you have right now? Like, what did you roll the J with? Send me a video. Dom says, I'm not home. It's the weed I've been putting in it. She says, where are you at, babe? He says, my mom's office. What about you? She said, oh, how's he doing? She said, nervous. She says, I feel bad AF. Dom says he got caught with strap and Adderall. Wait, who got caught with strap and Adderall? Oh, my mom's office with B. And she said, oh, how's he doing? And he said he got caught with a pew pew and Adderall. Mackenzie says, I feel bad AF. She says, bruh, OMG. Dom says, right? She says, wow. The cops have that? Dom says, yeah. She says, OMG. She says, bruh, poor B. He says, right? She says, what's going to happen to him? He says, don't know really. She says, holy shit. He says, he'll probably rat on someone, then be fine. She said, God, the situation is so sad. Like, how did the cops even get the pew pew? Dom says his dad literally let him in and let them search. Mackenzie says, WTF, how can you just do your child like that? He really did him just like that. Dom said, it's his stepdad. Mackenzie said, ew, what a PUSSY. Dom says, right? Mackenzie says, I feel so bad and I'm worried. Dom says, it'll be fine. She says, I hope. She says, babe. He says, what's up, babe? She says, I'm so tired, about to be home. Want to hang? She says, or want to hang tomorrow? He says, I got a headache anyway. She said, my stomach is effed. He said, I don't care either way. My stomach hurt too. She says, let me know what you want to do. I'm at Sheets with my mom. Do you want to just hang out tomorrow so my nails can be a surprise? Because we'll probably just sleep the whole time. He said, up to you, babe. She says, and I'll have the energy tomorrow. He said, yeah, that works. She said, I'm going to FaceTime you when I'm home. He said, I miss you, babe. He said, I'll see you tomorrow. She said, I miss my little nugget. I want to have a little sleepover tomorrow. He said, or just come cuddle and whatever you want. And she says, babe, come cuddle. She says, like, literally, I am in pain. My stomach hurts so bad because I haven't eaten all day. I'm eating now, though. He says, oh, okay, I'll see you tomorrow because I don't want to get out of bed. I got a headache. She says, babe, I really just want cuddles. I'm at home in bed. She says, my stomach is effed. He says, I do too, babe. She says, come. He says, I'm a roll of blunt. She said, Kay. She says, so wait, before we move on, so Blair is a little troublemaker. Huh. Hey Robert. Talking about snitching. I would never snitch. If you are in that line of work, you know what you're getting yourself into. That's true. Uppers and downers, my lashes, my nails, blunts, minutes. The nug, OMG. If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Oh, they should do the colon cleanse together. Oh my God, stop. Not take Linzess. Melly has it. Melly has what? I need to start. The start? I got the start on. Don't worry. Damn, he be texting first. I know. It's a shocker, huh? Okay, no. Snitches get stitches. Oh, yeah. I just saw Joe Schmo's comment. Okay, let's continue. She says, Kay, that was on 227 at 8:09. Then she says, what the F are you playing? I think I'm gonna go home. He says, they rapping. She says, no, it wasn't rap. He says, are you mad, babe? Mackenzie said, it was singing. And no. Dom says, I don't know what the F they trying to make music. She said, it's annoying. She says, I just wanted to hang with you, but it's okay. She says, I'm gonna just dip. He says, babe, I'm sorry. I didn't want to fall asleep. It's only 9:30. She says, I know. I'm just gonna be laying here and they're not gonna get any quieter or leave soon. So we can just hang another day. He says, I'm sorry, babe. Dom says, I didn't know they could go that long. He says, I love you, babe. She says, I love you too, babes. He says, good night, babe. And she says, babe, at midnight. She says, answer snap. He says, all they had was strip clubs. All they had, oh, I'm sorry. All they had was strips, no other cuts, not strip clubs. Sorry. All they had was strips, no other cuts. Honestly, if it's just a strip, then don't even get it, he said. Oh, so it's midday. What is he talking about? She says, I already got them. He says, she says, want me to drop them off at your house on the way? He says, no, it's cool. We can make them in a little. Sorry, I was getting really frustrated. Or we don't have to. She says, no, babe, I want to. I'm about to be home. She said, I was driving. She says, babe, I'm home. He says, okay, let's chill in a little. She says, come over. He says, I'm with Kyle. She said, babe, Haley want to hang for a little. He says, go hang with her. He says, I'm going to chill with Kyle and Blair need a life? Or you can come and we can make steaks. Oh, he was talking about steaks, the cut. She says, LMAO, what, babe? And we can just make the steaks here at my house. He says, well, I don't know if y'all have the shit I need. She said, just bring it over. He says, okay. He says, I'll come over later. He says, "Do you have a big skillet?" She says, "Probably, let me ask." She says, "We do have a big skillet, but I don't know if it's the one you want." He said, "Send a pic." She sends a pic. He says, "Yeah, no, like a black one." She sends a pic again. He says, "Yeah, that would probably work." She says, "Okay, bet." He says, When do you want me to come?" She says, "In a little." He says, "Okay, I'm going to figure out what all I need." He said, "Send me a pic of the steak." She said, "It's all wrapped up. I will in a second." She said, "What time you want?" He said, "What?" She said, "What time you want to eat dinner?" She says, "We eat in hella." He says, "Like cut steaks or your crabs and shit?" She said, "Yes." He says, "Cause I'll come make the steaks right now." She said, "And potato chips. I'm with Haley. I can drop her off right now." He says, "You didn't answer my question." She said, "Bruh, do you want to come right now? I'm with Haley, but I can drop her off right now. Can you not be mean?" He says, "When you asked what time I want to eat dinner, I asked if you meant the steaks or the crabs and shit." She says, "Oh, everything." He says, "When do you want me to make the steaks? And do you want me to make them?" She says, "We're going to make everything. And yes, I want you to make the steaks." He said, "So we're eating pork chops, crabs, and steaks?" She said, "Yes, LOL." He says, "All in one sitting?" She said, "Sure." He said, "Or two different meals?" She says, "We can do two different ones. Why are you making this so complicated?" He said, "Whatever." She sends 7 question marks. She says, "What is going on, Dom? Do you want me to take her home?" He says, "No, just chill with Haley." She says, "I want to eat. Why do you have to do this? Like, ugh, I can't just have my mom make pork chops now and then we can have steak and crab tonight." He says, "You're making it complicated. It's cool." She says, "We make pork chops right now." He says, "What?" Mackenzie said, "She's making the pork chops right now." He says, "Okay, I'll just make those steaks another day. My mom is making chicken parmesan later." She says, "Okay, you can skip dinner. I'm for real so sick of doing this. Like, OMG." He says, "Okay." She says, like, "Wow, you're really going to say that?" He said, "What do you mean? I was just letting you know." She says, "We have crab legs and wagyu." He says, "I don't know if that wagyu is good." She says, "You're for real rude." He said, "I don't know what kind of steak that is. What kind of steak is it?" She says, "We really about to have issues. You have like 3 seconds to fix this. Like, you literally are the dumbest mother effer." Dumb, she says. And he says, "Why?" She says, "Nah, you can just stay home tonight. I'll drop your steaks off. Actually, you can come get them. I'll leave them in the mailbox or some shit." He says, "Why, babe?" She says, "No, you keep doing what you're clearly doing. You want to do that. Like, literally so effing weird. Creepy AF." He says, "What do you mean? Why are you mad? Do you want me to come? Are you mad because Chris and Morgan came?" "Babe, I can come right now." She says, like, "Nah, it's seriously weird AF when Morgan all in your shit posting videos of her smoking a wood. And the fact you didn't even be like, 'Babe, I'm smoking with Morgan,' like she's literally gross. And the fact that she was all in your shit got me grossed out." Oh, she's jelly. She's jelly. I don't know if I've ever had a wagyu. It sounds weird AF. How did I know she's gonna be jealous? Yeah, okay, let's see what she says. So Morgan was probably hitting the blunt on the Snapchat and she's jealous. She says, "That shit got me grossed out. And I love that you didn't let me know you were with her. Like, ew." She says, "Weird and sus. And now you're dry as shit. Of course." He says, "Babe, I didn't know she was coming. Chris asked if I wanted to smoke, and I didn't know she was all in my shit." Mackenzie says, "No, sounds like some sneaky shit to me, and she was real close to you." He says, "I don't like her either, babe." She says, "Oh, yeah, I bet you didn't know." He says, "Babe, I can't even see the video." She says, "And she posts her videos with sound on so I can hear your voice. Like, I will literally beat the shit out of Morgan." He says, "Let me check again." She says, "Yeah, I know. I literally seen her send a video of her smoking the wood. Alexis, like, she's effing weird. She has some weird obsession with you. Now I literally don't give a single F. You want some sneaky shit. When I called you and asked what you were doing, you could have told me, but you didn't. I know I get to be, and now I get to be pissed off. Thank you. No wonder why I have trust issues." He said, "Babe, I wasn't trying to be sneaky at all. I don't like Morgan. Chris was just trying to slide for some bud." Mackenzie says, "Yeah, well, you can tell Chris Morgan can stay in the car next time and she not hitting the blunt. The fact that she can and she thinks she can post it, like I should honestly just beat her ass. Literally effing weird. The fact you let her come around when you know she has a weird obsession for you too." He says, "I don't know. I didn't know that, babe, but okay, I'll tell Chris he can't bring her here anymore. She must have took me off story so she can post it." She says, "Yeah, no, I'm not effing with her at all. I will seriously beat her up. I'm not playing games." Dom says, "Babe, I'm going to tell him he can't bring her here. She won't be here anymore." She says, like the fact that you guys have a past and she does all this sneaky shit. Dom says she won't be around me. Mackenzie says, like, no, that is disgusting. I can actually puke. He says, "Babe, not even a past." She says, "Yes, a past." Like, ew. He says, "Babe, no." He said, "Used to be ew." Mackenzie says, "She is so gross." Dom says, "I know. I don't want her in my house." Mackenzie says, "I'm so pissed." Dom says, "I was super mad the whole time." Mackenzie said, "Well, she was all up in your shit right between you two in the front seat." Dom says, "That's why we were in the car." Mackenzie says, "What does that have to do with Morgan being there?" Dom says, "Babe, I didn't know she would be around anymore because I don't like her either." And Mackenzie doesn't respond. And then at 7:15, he says, "Babe, are you mad?" She says, "Yeah, you can come over now or you can just not come over. We're making food by 8, so you can come now. I would come now." He says, "Are you still making steaks and do you want me to make those at all?" She says, "Yes, I just said we're still doing all of that." He says, "Okay, do you have kosher salt, popcorn, clove, garlic oil, and heavy whipping cream?" She said, "Just bring all that stuff to be safe." He said, but babe, can you check or ask real quick?" She said, "I do not have peppercorn or the salt. I have to check and see if my heavy whipping cream is good. I would just bring your shit." He said, "Okay, check if it's good." She says, "I have regular salt, heavy whipping cream, and garlic." He says, "Minced or clove?" She says, "Both." He says, "Bet." She says, "You're coming?" He says, "Yeah, I'm about to get ready and come." He says, "What kind of oil do you have?" She says, "Extra virgin olive oil." He said, "Bet." And then they're playing 8 ball. Okay, so they're playing 8 ball, 8 ball. They probably eating dinner and playing 8 ball. Okay, more 8 ball. Random. Random. Okay, let me just sit here while they go through. Oh, now they're playing word hunt. Okay. Okay, word hunt. They're playing word hunt. She sends little owl with hearts. He sends chess. So now they're playing chess at 9:49 p.m. Okay, so now they're playing chess. So they must have had dinner. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're playing chess and all these games. Okay, more chess, more chess. Dude. They're just playing chess. Sorry, guys. It's like they're sending the link back and forth. More chess. Okay. Wow, they love it. It's 10:02 p.m. They're playing chess. Let me just scroll through these. Dude, what the heck? More chess. Okay. Um, hmm. They're just playing chess still. Let's see. It's 10:08 p.m. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. They're just playing these games back and forth. Now they're playing checkers. Wow. Okay, I'm kind of over them playing this. Still playing checkers. Mm-hmm. Still playing checkers. It's 10:22 p.m. I wonder if she went home or if they're playing while they're having dinner, or if he went home. Oh my gosh. I'm like, is this what they're gonna do like the entire night? Just play chess and checkers? We're already to 11. Okay, here we go. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. She says, love you, babe. Thanks for coming over tonight. I had a lot of fun. He says, me too, babe. I love you. The stakes were fire. Okay. So that was a lot of chess and checkers. Not us starting to play chess and checkers as a whole community. Oh my gosh. I might just have to do that. They're getting along so well. She was like saying she was anything. Hey, Mo. Good to see you, love. She cray cray. Why did they even include the? I don't know. I don't know why the detective thought they should include that. Next time, connect 4. What was in the same room? She's gross, but it was exaggerated. Okay, we did it. Dude, 3 hours? That was the whole ass February. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So tomorrow we'll do March. I'm doing 2 lives tomorrow. We're covering another case other than Mackenzie, and then I'll be back with Mackenzie live too. So we're on March now. Yeah. That was a lot. Yay! It's always chess and checkers with them. That was crazy fun. That was crazy fun. That was crazy fun. Yeet. I didn't even finish my coffee. You guys, I feel like there's something more. There is a lot more. Ooh, what case? There's a couple that I don't know which one I want to talk about tomorrow, but there's a couple I want to do. I'm allergic to V-Day now. Yeah, we'll never look at Valentine's Day the same. Good job. Thanks. No twister. Great meat. Okay, thank you guys for being here. My stomach issue stopped. You feel better now? You don't have to deal with this shit. Thanks, Kayla, for being here. Tay driver. Mo, good to see you, love. Community rush. Yeah, okay. Kalahari, go to bed. And we'll be back tomorrow. March is my birthday. Yay! We'll be back tomorrow with March readings. Make sure you tap that like on the way out. Please, please, please. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are so much fun. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Wait. Love you, Millie. Thanks, Sarah. Love you too. I won't see Valentine's Day or Juneteenth ever the same. I know, me either. That was fun. Have a good night, you guys. I will catch you on the next one. Bye.
So all they do is work, but nobody can hide once she gets a hold of that paperwork. So don't you dare come in here acting like a jerk. Dance might make her dance, but new court docs will make her wanna twerk. Dark hair shining in the Cali sun, Melly on the case, so no point in trying to run. You Sims can ask for feet pics, but you getting none. It's crime o'clock with Melly, let's have some fucking fun. So if you're feeling for true crime, like it's a drug, crime o'clock with Melly is your motherfucking plug. Going so hard on criminals, they'll call their mama for a hug. She's finding